Buckle up, boys. Time to go to work.
Welcome to the Dan Patrick Show.
Dan Patrick.
Baseball, tap me on the shoulder when you got some information here, because it feels like it's this verbal game of ping pong that's played between the players and the owners. We don't care about the money. We couldn't care less about the money. We just want to know. It's like, I don't care about the labor pains. Just show me the baby. All right? Show me the baby, and I'll get you a nice gift.
Excuse me.
I cared about my wife's labor pains.
You better be sure about that.
I really did. But I don't care about baseball's labor pains.
Dan is joined by Paulie, Seton, McLovin, and Fritz.
What do you got on? Your T-shirt
I've got
looks
a very
like
snug L when we all know I'm at least an XL.
If that T-shirt can make a noise, it'd probably be...
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine.
Broadcasting from the Mercedes Man Cave, this is Dan Patrick.
Welcome to the program. Morale is high. The boys are here. We're ready to go. On this Wednesday, Dan and the Danettes, Dan Patrick Show. Bob Costas a little bit later on. Your phone calls are always welcome. Your tweets, your emails. Say good morning to Chat Row. You can watch on youtube.com/The Dan Patrick Show. And you can listen on our 362 radio affiliates around the country, including Fox Sports Radio lineup. 877-3DP Show. Email address, dp@danpatrick.com. Twitter handle at DP Show. It's happening. The long-rumored Fight Island, now officially a thing. UFC announced that they're going to host 4 events on an island off Abu Dhabi. That'll be in July. I don't know if it's actually called Fight Island, but it's kind of like Sky Judge with the NFL. I love it. Fight Island. UFC President Dana White says the reason they're doing it is because they need the international competitors, and you couldn't get those into the United States during the pandemic. Here is the UFC President, Dana White.
Abu Dhabi has actually created this safety zone on the island within 10 square miles. Will just be inhabited by us. It'll include an arena, hotels, training facilities for the fighters that are private, dining establishments, and yes, there is an octagon on the beach.
I love it. I hope they take advantage, though, of the sites there to let people, remind people, because once you get into the octagon, you could be anywhere in the world. It's showing people, showcasing Abu Dhabi and the fact that you actually have Fire Island. So the aerial shots there, you need to have big letters there, Fight Island there. Maybe you could get Jeff Probst. Maybe we could get him from Survivor to go to Abu Dhabi to host Fight Island. I like it. Logistics aside, you have to admit it sounds pretty cool. It makes the NBA going off to Orlando seem kind of lame. Like that's sort of a pedestrian there. And who knows, this might be the first step towards a UFC theme park. I don't know. Maybe you have a Conor McGregor ride or John Jones roller coaster ride. And if you're an MMA fan, it would be great to sneak onto Fire Island, even though that's not happening. UFC's been able to provide continuity that other sports haven't. Even if Fight Island is just a short-term solution, you got to give the UFC credit because they're being creative and hopefully staying safe for the time being. And then you have Major League Baseball. You know, here you have UFC. They're going to take over an island. Major League Baseball, I don't know where we are. But it's my duty, my obligation to continue to try to figure out where we're headed with this, because now baseball, after their proposal for 50 games, MLB Players Association now an 89-game schedule, you know, you start to look at the financial part of this, because that's what this is about. Major League Baseball doesn't care about the players' health. They just want them to be able to come back. The owners want to make their money in the postseason. Now you have the commissioner who says, hey, I can tell you that we're going to have a strike-shortened season of at least 50 games, and I don't need the players' approval on this, which is true. But you start to look at the amount of money, and, you know, owners are never going to tell you the truth. They don't have to. They don't have to open their books. But let's just look at this according to Forbes. So I'm just going by the numbers here. Major League Baseball brought in over $10.5 billion last year. That's according to Forbes. Players' salaries probably around $4 billion. Out of that, $10.7 billion. So that means there's about $6 billion worth of expenses, apparently. Sounds like the owners are making some money here. I can't imagine an owner is going to go, I don't make any money, but I'm going to continue to own a team. Now, you can say, well, the value goes up, and maybe you're just trying to live season to season. The owners won't open their books, but average ticket price has gone from $22 in 2006 to $32 in 2019. Even as baseball's attendance declines every year, the league is still generating record revenues every year. So somebody's making money somewhere. And I know that you're not getting fans in the stands, and the owners will say, we're going to lose $500,000 per game, whatever that number is. It feels like you're still making money. I don't know how much money you're making. The owners are looking at a bigger picture long term, whereas the players are looking at short term. They're looking, I want my money, I want all my money now. The owners are saying, hey, we want to do what's best for baseball. We want to have a season, even if it's 50 games. They're looking at this because they're owners of teams. The players come and go. The owners, for the most part, they hold on for dear life to these franchises. They're looking at a bigger picture here. It's not pretty, and I don't know if it's going to get prettier anytime soon, but we'll talk to Bob Costas about this coming up. McLevin, you got a poll question for me today.
Okay, a couple of things off of what you're just talking about. First of all, if you had the means and had either a press pass or allowed in, would you go to Fight Island in July?
Yeah. I've never been to Abu Dhabi. Be kind of nice. I have a friend who covers UFC, and he said, and he actually covers boxing as well. He got tested yesterday or the day before. There were fights last night. He got tested the day before, and he got quarantined for 6 hours, and then he went to cover the fight. But yeah, I'd go to Abu Dhabi and go to Fight Island. Yeah, McLevin.
Side question: if you were younger without a family, would you have quarantined with the NBA for 2 months? If you were, say, when you were an early on reporter, or even now, would you do that? Because the reporters might have to quarantine in Orlando for 2 months.
Yeah, if I was younger.
Like when you were covering the finals, do you think you would have been okay with that?
Well, it's not just me who would have to be okay with it. It'd have to be my wife. But probably at the time, yeah.
We were talking to Chris Mannix, our friend, if he wants to do it. He said it's really complicated.
Well, yeah, you just want to know what the testing, what are the safety guidelines, and are you staying on, the lot there in Orlando? As long as everybody is doing what they're supposed to do, then yeah, I would be fine with covering it. What else?
Okay, baseball poll.
Oh, God.
How many games are they going to play? 50, 89, 0.0.
How about an over-under here, Paulie?
Okay, so we're betting today the over-under on regular season games played. Let me call my guy. Hold on. I got a guy who could do this fast.
On the over-under?
Yeah, give me 2 minutes.
Okay. What else, McLevin?
Okay, if you were an MLB player and they mandated a 50-game season, would you play?
Well, I guess I have to.
Well, we found it out. We were just looking at the story that if you can prove that you live with somebody who's high risk, then you can get paid without playing. You can.
Yeah, but how many are going to be able to do that? I don't know how a judge, if let's say the commissioner says you're coming back and you're playing 50 games and you have to do this because you have contract and we agreed to this back in March. What if a player, let's say Aaron Judge, not that he would do it, but let's say Aaron Judge goes, I don't want to come back. I don't feel safe in the New York area. Given all the COVID cases, I don't want to come back. I don't feel safe. How would a judge, and I'm talking about if it got to a federal judge, not just the Players Association or an arbitrator, but if you said, look, I don't want to come back. I don't feel safe. How's a judge going to go, I'm going to side with Major League Baseball and the commissioner here? I mean, I'm curious. I don't have the answer to this, but I was just wondering. Blake Snell said he didn't want to come back. Now, it felt like it was about the money, but he was also using safety as that was the battering ram there. Hey, I don't want to come back. It's not worth it to come back for my health. We've made huge progress in the safety, the testing, social distancing, all those things. But I don't know if a member of the Yankees or Mets says, look, I'm at the epicenter here. I don't want to come back. I'm nervous about this. Yes, Eden.
Part of this argument, though, feels like it's about a month late or a month old. I mean, you're talking about coming back and if it's safe or not, and like youth sports are starting up all over the country, and that costs people pay to do that. So we can send 10-year-olds to go back and play, soccer or baseball, whatever you want. But these dudes can't figure out if they can go back for a couple $1 million. No, it feels like it's so old.
Well, they're worried about baseball implementing a salary cap. There's a lot of other things here. It's not just going back. It's 50 games, and now we're going to control your pay, and now we're going to tell you what you can make. Baseball has always been free enterprise here. Capitalism at its finest, that you're going to be able to pay what you want to pay. I think the players are worried about if we come back. Now, all of a sudden, the commissioner's dictating everything here. And the Players Association has been very strong in many decades. I think that the optics, as we like to say, or don't like to say, wouldn't look good for players coming back. But if I'm a player, or some of these marquee players say, look, I'm just not comfortable. Mike Trout can say, my wife's pregnant. I'm worried if I get the virus. Like, I just don't know if that's a good arguing point publicly. But I just wonder if everybody has to come back, then why doesn't the commissioner just say, 50 games, it's starting July 10th, let's go. And then we're done with it. Because what are we waiting for? Are we waiting for 81 games? Are we waiting for 75 games? How about we just do 50 games? And then everybody can come back, you can get some paychecks, and then the owners are worried about the second wave of the coronavirus. And that would interrupt the postseason. If it interrupts the postseason, the owners are rolling the dice on, we're going to have a season, but I want that postseason. And if that postseason goes away, then the owners would be losing a considerable amount of money. Yeah, Paul.
The commissioner had the power to stop the season. Does he have the power to restart the season anytime he wants with everything in place as it was 4 months ago, 3 months ago? Like, imagine he said, we're starting in 3 weeks and everyone will be paid exactly the rate that they did before. Does he have that kind of power? He basically saying, we're restarting the season. And everyone will be at the same salary, same everything, and I'm in charge here. Because then the players will be super happy. They get their games and they get full game checks. And the owners, they'll have to eat it. The commissioner should just say, we're starting. Here's the date. You guys get ready to pony up.
Commissioner works for the owners. That's the problem.
He could be the hero of the fans and keep his job.
He wouldn't keep his job. If the owners control his job.
It would be hard to fire an owner who brought back baseball earlier than the owners and players wanted.
Yeah, but the fans, we don't care who the commissioner is. I mean, it's not like we're going to be revolting because Rob Manfred got fired. If Roger Goodell got fired, nobody's going to be going, I'm up in arms, I'm angry about that. Nobody cares. Gary Bettman got fired, nobody cares. You got the over-under?
My guy out in Vegas, Max, says he's setting it, and he's asked another guy, 74.5 games. So right now, because he's kind of splitting the difference in the 48 games and the 89 games, so 74.5 is your over-under if you want a piece of it.
I'm going to go over. I'm going to be optimistic that there's going to be at least 75 games.
Glass half full.
Yeah, I got to be a season half full. Yes, McLevin.
Is a half game like a rain delay that gets through 6 innings, and that's what he's talking about?
We don't like pushes here. We want someone to collect at the window.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, if he says 75 and it's 75,
So I'll put that up as a poll. Over under at 74.5.
Do people care? Like, do we care how many games? We just want them back.
Well, I think people think 50 games is super lame.
It is. But if you said I get 50 or I'd get nothing, I'll take 50. I get caught up in this, and then once I get, deep into the rabbit hole, I go, what am I doing again? Where I said I wasn't going to do this because it's just back and forth. This is what they do. I don't even know if they have the safety precautions, the safety guidelines to be able to actually come back. I saw a report where they don't even have all of those safeguards put in place here. So we're talking about money in games. I don't even know if They know exactly how they can bring everybody back and keep everybody safe. And then you're traveling to other cities here. You're going by bus. You're going by plane. Yeah, Paul.
If you had a 75-game regular season and it was on schedule to the playoffs in October, the season would start, if you look at what 75 games is left, like the 5th of July. Anyone think we're playing baseball on July 5th as of right now?
No.
It's hard to picture.
But, hey, if the commissioner says 50 games, we're starting July 4th weekend, let's go, then we go. You mobilize, right? I'm guessing.
That might, if it's 50 games, it would probably start closer to
the end of July?
August 1st.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like it would be smarter, build in a little bit of time there. But I'm going to stay with 75. I'm going over there. The over-under, 75. I don't know what I'm putting on it, but that's what I'm going with. Yes, McLovin, you look puzzled.
I have another poll option. I can save it or give it to you now.
No, you can give it to me.
Which sport do you think is gaining the most from their circumstances? And the side question is which sport is losing the most, which is MLB.
Yeah.
But is UFC, I don't even know what the other options. Like, is this UFC coming out of this a more popular sport is really the question? Because they've taken advantage of this.
I don't know. I don't know if it's going to become more popular. It still feels like it's a sport that's built on stars. And if you have the stars who are upset with Dana White, then I don't know. They're going to have to develop more stars here. Because if Conor McGregor and John Jones and some of these other guys are angry at Dana White, you need stars. And I think when you have those stars, then UFC can take front and center on a Saturday night. But I don't know that. I'm sure that there are analytics that would tell me how popular UFC is. The NBA is going to benefit from this as well. Yes, Eden.
The high today, by the way, in Abu Dhabi is 102 degrees.
In the shade?
Likely.
Oh,
That's
man.
actually probably nice for June.
Yes, Todd.
But doesn't it seem like UFC, NASCAR, some of the things that have already started up?
NASCAR.
NASCAR. It's more of like a bookmark or a holding spot.
Is that the rapper Nas?
Nas.
Nas.
And there's Lil Nas. Lil Nas X.
Little NASCAR?
NASCAR.
Yeah. I'm sorry. What was your point, Todd?
That UFC and auto racing and things of that nature that have already started up, they're really being just a holding place or a bookmark until the actual sports we really care about can get started again. That's not going to all of a sudden, everyone's going to all of a sudden love auto racing and UFC, those that didn't before because they came back a few weeks or a month before the sports we actually want to watch.
I don't know. UFC, it feels like, has been building, continues to build, but it just feels like that's a sport that feels like there could be a takeover. Or I know we had Bellator, but if I'm Bellator and I say, I'm going to give you 40% of the gate to some of these fighters, or I'm going to, not 20%, I'm going to give you this, come on over. And if it's almost like the USFL against the NFL. They went out and got these stars, big name players, brought them in, and they probably could have succeeded if they had had a little bit more patience here. But I don't know. It just feels like it's ripe for a takeover. Yeah, see.
But the problem is that UFC is like Q-tip. You know, like the brand is bigger than the actual product, right?
Kleenex.
So Kleenex is what people just call tissues, Kleenex.
Yeah.
Just like they call MMA UFC, and it's not. That's one specific sort of, chapter of it or whatever, right? It's just one league. But the UFC brand overshadows the entire sport.
But if it's called something else, even though we refer to it as UFC, I mean, it's MMA, but we call it UFC.
But people call it UFC.
Yeah. All we want to know is where can I get the fight? If it's not UFC and it's something else, and UFC makes that easy. But if you said Conor McGregor is fighting Saturday night on Bellator, or somebody else, you're going to probably find that eventually. But hey, Fight Island, sure, why not? Yeah, Paul.
Yeah, Fritzy was talking about other sports, and you may not jump ship to another sport. I'm not going to give up football, but I watched a lot of boxing last night. It was on ESPN. There's a fighter named Shakur Stevenson. I'd never heard of him before in my life. He's fantastic. I would have never learned his name on a normal day with NBA playoffs going on, which it would be right now. I would have tuned into boxing last night, and I like boxing, but I wouldn't have had the time. There's a couple other fighters I watched last night. I got to know their names, and I was like, these guys are entertaining. Next time I see their name on a card, I might go, oh, I'm gonna turn the channel tonight, or I'm gonna keep an eye on this one. So that it does have a benefit.
But boxing used to be on each weekend, and it'd be on CBS and be in the afternoon. And you got to know these fighters. Therefore, you followed these fighters. And now, unless you pay money, you're not going to see these fighters. And that's where it's different. Because all I want to do, it goes back to what I've said about Major League Baseball. I want to make it affordable for you to get in the park. I'd rather have 30,000 in there, and I'm going to charge you $22 than if I'm going to get 20,000 in there or 18,000 in there at 32. Because I'm going to make it up with the concessions, and I get repeat business because now you get to go to a game instead of saying, yeah, it's got to be a special occasion to go to a ball game. You might go to 4 games instead of 1. And you may watch the product now, and you get a younger audience in here. I never understood the business model. And granted, these guys are worth billions. I figured the more I get in, the more you get to sample it, and then you take that experience, you tell your friends, you go again, maybe you watch a game on TV. Baseball has to get younger. And that would be my initiative is you can get younger by making it affordable for those to go to a game. By the way, this program is brought to you by a great new product that I got. It's Raycon. You want to hear music, wireless earbuds, the way to go, 15% off your Raycon order at buyraycon.com/Patrick. You're going to look at these wireless earbuds, and you've probably seen prices. Raycon has a great price here. Buyraycon.com/Patrick. Take a break here. We'll come up with our poll question, phone calls, Bob Costas a little bit later on. We'll talk some NBA as well. 21 after the hour. This is the Dan Patrick Show. You check things all the time, like your email, your Instagram. What about checking something as important as your credit? Discover makes it quick and easy. Best of all, it's free. Discover's now offering FICO credit scores, the score used by 90% of top lenders, and you can do it for free, even if you're not a customer. Checking your score won't hurt your credit, and you can check each month for changes. The Discover Credit Scorecard, it's free for everyone. Learn more at discover.com/credit scorecard. That's discover.com/credit scorecard. Limitations apply. Left-handed.
I'll go right or left. I'll go either way. We're hot.
Oh, wow.
Ready?
Okay.
Oh, well, then you
So,
both go lefty.
What's at stake here?
When I bust his watch, I left to get him.
Here, let's take it out.
If Fritzy loses, no more hugs, ever.
Oh, come on. Are you kidding me? I'm not going
With
to win
any,
this. He's in much better
any
shape than
women
me.
in studio.
For a year.
That's not it.
Okay, for a year.
Do we lock the hands here?
Yeah, you lock hands.
we do?
Okay. Now, on the count of 3, it's ball game.
He's going to break my wrist.
I remember
One.
the time you kissed my daughter.
2, 3.
Oh, man.
Go, Dad. Go, Dad.
Fritzy!
No.
He's smiling at
Fritzy,
Stephen Michael
models!
Decker.
Hugs!
Stephen Michael Decker.
Inappropriate! Inappropriate hugs! Come on! You're Stallone! You're Stallone!
Okay, don't stop.
Don't hurt yourself.
Fritzy!
Catch the Catch the
Okay. He's so red
right now.
He's so red.
Fritzy, don't hurt yourself. Don't hurt yourself, Fritzy.
Oh my God. This is so
Fritzy
intense.
just pulled
Fritzy.
a groin.
It's not worth it.
You can hug me now.
You get to hug Brooklyn's dad.
I swear he never gets Fritzy.
I can actually see. I've lost all feeling in my
Fritzy, I've never seen a human so red in all my life. Oh my God.
Fritzy's been working all day. You did.
You did.
You're a beast.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Good job. I knew I was going to ultimately lose. I just wanted to last more than a few seconds.
As is tradition, the great quarterbacks.
Russell did it.
Russell Wilson, Dan Marino, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees. This is McLovin.
Yeah.
He is a possession receiver.
Wait, can I ask a question, Ed?
Yeah.
Kyler, should I be like this or should I get down like this?
Wow. Here we go. Here we go.
We're always trying.
Okay.
That
Catch your
would be helpful
stance.
to know.
Okay.
You get 2 fastballs.
Two throws. All right.
You'll go on that.
That was
Ricochet and through the upright.
that was
My God, dude.
that was decent. Like,
Hey, you want to get down? Should we get another? This isn't a Lincoln Riley offense. There's going to be actually somebody covering me this time, maybe.
wow.
Can I hide behind this truck?
Okay. You're good. You ready, McLovin?
Yeah, I'm ready. Hold on a second. I'm just going to go back here. Hit me.
I was gonna hit him in the hand. Okay. There's one more throw, and this is where, and I don't know how good you are at this, but when the grounder comes to me and I throw it to you like that, we're turning 2.
The instincts almost kicked in.
No, we'll do it this way. You go over there at second.
Okay.
So I'm at short. So grounder, and then I throw.
I'm the first baseman.
And then you. No, you got to do that. You got to.
Hey, I'll get fun.
You got to do that so you don't get caught.
I mean, you can do that at short.
I know, but I'm an infielder. That guy's coming in. I got to.
All right, how about this?
That's how the great ones do it, Kyler.
All right, can he run up and make the play? Here.
Been sorting through these proposals, counter proposals for Major League Baseball. MLB's proposal on Monday has an offer that the players would share in a pool of at least $50 million if the playoffs are played without fans. Now, there are opt-out rights for all players. Players who are considered high risk or reside with a high-risk individual are entitled to full service and salary in the event that they opt out. Those with no high-risk concerns may opt out without service or salary. High-risk qualification is to be determined by Major League Baseball Players Association in consultation with medical experts there. I don't know if we're going to get to that point where the commissioner says we're playing 50 games. Now get out there and play. Get your glove and go out there and play. Come on, hustle up. Come on, let's go. Here we go.
You're
Come
not
on,
one
Buck.
down. Let's stick
Buck.
one
Come
down.
on,
Let's stick.
hey,
Let's
Buck.
stick.
Come on, hey, Bob. Hey, come on, Blue. Hey, Blue.
That'd be great. What if the Commissioner Manfred just went up to the podium and did that, and then walked away? You're down 1-6.
Come
Let's
on,
go.
Blue. Let's go.
Hey, that kid, little bingo, babe.
Yeah, come on. All right. Walk's as good as a hit. Come on, you can do it. All right.
Walks as good as a hit.
Walks away from the podium.
That was always one of my favorites.
Yeah, hey, walks as good as a hit.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. Hey, hey, swing.
Hey, that kid, little bingo, babe.
Yes, Todd.
Using the little league and kid analogy, what if the players were forced to play and they would be on the field? Imagine them all pouting in the infield or at the play. They all had these pusses on as they're walking in and out of the stadium and on the field, showing no interest or excitement in playing at all. But they're doing everybody a big favor because they were forced to play.
Thank you, Todd.
I have no shot of saying anything on this show.
I-
At least today,
You
it's going to
do.
get any kind of reaction.
You do.
That's remotely positive.
You do.
I could say the most clever, interesting thing, and it's going to
You
have that
could.
same reaction.
You could.
Yeah.
Give that a shot.
We're waiting for it.
I could have breaking news and have a source and tell all you guys they're playing 50 games and it's starting next Thursday, and they would have the same response with two sources.
Okay.
in the baseball world.
During the commercial break, you were trying to tell a couple of jokes, right?
I don't know if they were jokes. I was picturing, one of them was picturing, you were talking about the lovely Abu Dhabi and the island. Imagine the two fighters, instead of being on some stage somewhere, they're doing the staring contest on a little canoe or the boat. And then maybe, you know how sometimes they get out of hand or it's scripted and one pushes the other one into the water and there's alligators.
Yeah.
And the other thing was a reference to the UFC.
And there's alligators.
That's a hot. Alligators are big in.
I don't think
Piranhas, whatever you throw in there, then see what happens. One of them falls in and I guess the fight would be canceled if one got attacked by.
And that's why we didn't really laugh or acknowledge it.
The other thing I emailed you, which I guess you try to protect me, was about the UFC versus Major League Baseball. The UFC is able to put everything together on an island, and Major League Baseball.
Why? Slow down a little bit. Okay, just slow down a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to make you the stand.
I don't have a great delivery. I don't.
No, you do.
And the material's not great. So
no, it's not.
Multiply both of those together.
Okay.
You're not going to get a lot of laughs.
All right. So slow it down, and you're on stage at Caroline's, and then this is your observational joke.
Right, but it's I know it's lacking the humor part of observational humor. But what I was saying is, I know we love that phrase. That gets it all started with. I have nothing to say. I have nothing that poorly rhymes here. The UFC has gone out of its way for its fans, and they bought an island, basically. They found out what to do with an island, but Major League Baseball can't even figure out what to do with a little diamond, as the baseball players playing on a diamond. I was doing an island diamond reference, which really doesn't get us anywhere. And once again, I take the show into a dark left field spot, and you can't bring it back to any sense of normalcy or interest.
I say to you, I try to help you. There was no observational humor in your observation.
And it wasn't even a great observation.
No,
if you
it wasn't.
really want to.
But then so now you get mad at me because you can't say anything on the show, and I try to protect you when you do want to say something.
Is that why when I've been raising my head in recent weeks,
Yes.
you're looking right through me and
Yes.
pretending that my head's not
You
up?
should thank me.
And then you call me when I'm not raising my hand, and then I guess like, oh, you should pay attention to the show. What's the Paul just said that 3 seconds ago. I felt the need to repeat the exact same thing.
See, now that's funny. Are you done?
I'm done. Back to you in the studio.
All right.
I thought this was a fun segment so far.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, great. Do we have let's start over.
It might be my guilt of not having like a 9:25 guest. I feel like I got to fill some time with some bad
I know, but you make it worse by not having a 9:25
No, I know.
guest.
And then you can't segue from what I'm saying into anything interesting. You're on the spot now, trying to get the show back on track. It's my fault. I apologize for that.
Okay. Last night I had some downtime, so I was looking at NBA stats and not current players. I was looking at Wilt Chamberlain stats, Bill Russell stats, Jerry West, Oscar Robertson. Because, as we get older or you're a new generation and you're watching the NBA, you just hear about these names. And we know Bill Russell is the greatest team winner of all time. And I thought it would be interesting to pose the question, do you know what some of Bill Russell's stats? Great rebounder, block shots, great team player, wonderful team player. Do you know what Bill Russell shot from the field? What was his field goal percentage? For his career, it was 44%. He's very limited offensively. Now, he did have a couple of seasons where he averaged, I think, 19 or 18 points per game. But why is it that we can acknowledge Bill Russell's greatness, but not Wilt Chamberlain's? Why is it we acknowledge Babe Ruth's greatness, but not Wilt Chamberlain? Now, you can say, well, he didn't win. Okay, he didn't win. But I got Bill Russell's numbers, and Bill Russell didn't put up great numbers, rebounding and block shots, and wonderful team player. Why is it that we look at Babe Ruth, where there was no integration, and then we say, man, greatest player of all time? And I've said that before. He won over 90 games as a pitcher, probably would have been a Hall of Famer as a pitcher, and, of course, what he did as, a hitter. But with Wilt Chamberlain, and there was integration then, and you could say, well, he didn't have other big men to go against. Okay. He was going against the same big men that Bill Russell was, and he went against Bill Russell. When Wilt scored 100 points, I believe that night he had 41 rebounds. That is a week for some players. He had 100 points and 41 rebounds. He had a couple of seasons where he averaged, I think, 8.5 and 7.5 assists per game. But we won't acknowledge Wilt Chamberlain because, well, he's moody. He wasn't a great team player. He didn't win. He had all this talent. But I just found that interesting that he played during it was not segregated. You had integration. Babe Ruth didn't. And we acknowledge everything that Babe did, but it feels like Wilt Chamberlain is starting to drift out of the top 10 of greatest players of all time. I find it amazing. If Wilt Chamberlain had 5 championships, is he the greatest player of all time? I don't know. Because we say Michael Jordan's the greatest player of all time. All right, we didn't have the most titles. Yeah, but, well, wait a minute here. When do the titles matter and when don't they matter?
Doesn't he have 2 titles? One in Philly, one in Los Angeles?
Yeah.
I mean, that's 2 more than Dan Marino. I know it's apples and oranges, but 2. It's not like he has 0.
But he should have won more. It's like we look at Shaq, should have won more. Like the big guy never gets credit. But Bill Russell gets credit. And Bill Russell had a team full of Hall of Famers, had the greatest coach GM, I think, in NBA history, in Red Auerbach. But we don't look at his numbers, because his numbers, he was a good rebounder and he blocked shots. He wasn't a scorer, wasn't a good shooter, didn't shoot well from the line. Wilt didn't either. But Wilt's numbers, I know Babe had more home runs than teams did at one point. Wilt's numbers dwarf everybody in what he was doing. I mean, you averaged 50 a night. 50 and 26 he averaged that year. And that might have been the same year that Oscar had a triple-double. But boy, do we acknowledge Oscar's triple-double, don't we? And Oscar won 1 championship. Oscar's ranked higher than Wilt Chamberlain is in people's minds. So why is it that triple-double that Oscar had is so much more important than what Wilt did in the same year when he averaged 50 and 26? It's just how we approach this, the stats and how we use them, depending on what your argument is. And look, was Wilt the ideal teammate? No, he was not. Was Bill Russell? I'm sure he was. But I think history is unfair to Wilt Chamberlain in his dominance, because I don't know if anybody's ever dominated their sport the way Wilt Chamberlain did. Babe was great, but then we saw Lou Gehrig in the same lineup, and Lou Gehrig held his own with Babe Ruth. Wilt Chamberlain in a team sport, I can't think of anybody who was so much better than everybody else numbers-wise, but we don't acknowledge that greatness. And I think at some point, we're going to look at Wilt Chamberlain outside of the top 10. I think, when it's all said and done, is Steph Curry in the top 10? He might already be. Championships, greatest shooter of all time. Is the Greek Freak going to get in there? Who's going to be pushed down the list? Because with the new wave coming in, who are those guys who are going to get into the top 10 when it's all said and done? Is Larry Bird going to be a top 10 player in 10 years from now? You would assume, but I don't know that. I don't know the pecking order. It's not going to change with Michael Jordan. Bill Russell will stay there because of 11 titles. Tim Duncan will stay there because of 5 titles. Karl Malone, does he stay in there? Never had a championship? Does he stay? Is he in the top 10? Is Oscar? Jerry West? I'm just curious, as time goes on, the new wave, the next wave. And look, I love Jerry West, but if you're saying, hey, look at Steph Curry's numbers and he won more championships, okay, maybe he's a better player. Not in my opinion, at least not yet. But if, Steph continues to put up these numbers, wins another championship, he's the greatest shooter of all time, okay. It's going to happen. Yeah, McLevin.
I'm sorry if you mentioned, but what if Durant wins with a different team? He'll skyrocket on that list. If he won in Brooklyn?
He's not going to get enough credit for what happened at Golden State, first of all. Now, if he wins in Brooklyn, yeah, he'll get a lot of credit. It's like LeBron with the Lakers. You would think he would get a lot more credit winning a title with a third team, but I don't know if he'll get that credit. Because it's LeBron, and he went to the Lakers, and then he brought in Anthony Davis. He couldn't have won without Anthony Davis. Like, I don't know. It's how we form our arguments when we talk about these things. But just looking at Wilt's numbers, I mean, it's incredible. Yeah, Paul.
I have a bit of a theory on Wilt Chamberlain. I didn't see him play, but you saw a lot more than I did. Did he go from Kansas to the Globetrotters and then the NBA?
Yeah.
Okay, I always wondered about that, and I wonder if people back then, maybe and now, look at Wilt Chamberlain as almost like an anomaly, a freak, where he was so much more tall and fast and strong than everybody else that it wasn't fair. And they went from Kansas to playing with the Globetrotters, which is a show, not an actual game, to playing in the NBA. And they look at him as like almost like Babe Ruth, where it wasn't really fair. You can't compare him because he's not a normal person, normal player. He was taller, bigger. It was too easy for him. And he doesn't get credit because of his size.
Well, I think that nobody likes the big guy.
Yeah.
Nobody likes Goliath. They love David. Yes, Eden.
So I apologize if you already mentioned this number, but according to Wilt Chamberlain's Wikipedia page, they're talking about what his favorite game is that he ever played in, and it's a game that he got 55 rebounds against Bill Russell.
Yeah. Yeah.
55 rebounds in a game against Bill Russell.
Yeah. Yeah, McLovin.
I think it's a little bit too because we see Wilt as a Laker a lot in highlights. We don't see just like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, we see 80s Kareem, not 70s Kareem. And it's kind of hard as a younger fan.
Yeah, I mean, these guys missed out on the golden era. That when Bird and Magic came in, that the TV era, that changed everything. When they had the NBA Finals on tape delay, I believe in 1970, with the Lakers and the Knicks on ABC. Tape delayed. NBA Finals. All right, we'll take a break. More phone calls coming up right after this.
Gents, today we celebrate an American hero. It is National Black Cow Day. Now, everyone knows what a black cow is. It's a root beer float, right?
I did not know that.
Never heard really. It's commonly called, and the invented phrase is the black cow.
I thought it was like some liquor.
Absolutely not. It's the root beer float. Now, this gentleman, American hero Frank Wisner of Cripple Creek, Colorado, back in 1893, he was developing a beverage company, and he was putting together a bunch of stuff. And one night he was up late, and behind his the area he lived in, Cripple Creek, there was a thing called Cow Mountain, and the moon was over the top of the mountain. He's like, "Oh man, it'd be great to throw a scoop of ice cream on top of it, make it like a dessert drink." And he went back to his laboratory there, his little brewery area, and he took some root beer, put a scoop of vanilla ice cream on it, and he called it a Black Cow Mountain because it looked like a Black Cow Mountain. He started giving it to the local kids and serving it to the kids when their parents would come into his brewing thing. And the local kids called it the Black Cow. That's where the phrase came from. It's fantastic.
Thank you, Cliff Clavin.
What's that?
Thank you, Cliff Clavin.
Just trying to teach you because no one in the room knew anything. Smart guy. Now,
I didn't need to know it, just saying.
Oh, yes, you did.
No, I don't, because I wouldn't have a root beer float.
Why?
Great.
Root beer floats are awesome.
Oh,
I'm not a
best.
huge root beer float guy.
What?
See,
Look at that.
now you're upset. My dad loved root beer floats. That was his go-to. When he had a hard day, he would take us to another legend.
Well, I love that,
A&W,
but I don't need to ruin the root beer with ice cream.
It doesn't ruin it.
Oh,
it
man.
accentuates it on occasion.
No, that frosted mug A&W root beer.
I love A&W root beer, by the way. I used to love driving to these as a kid.
Love the
Great.
drive-in.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Those are awesome.
Now, we recommend...
And all-you-can-eat shrimp.
Fantastic.
Good deal.
We recommend IBC root beer.
That's good, too.
It's the best. You put it in a root beer float. Next thing you know, look what's happening.
What about Barks?
There's like Stewart's.
There's Barks.
Stewart's.
Sure.
Ramblin'.
Yeah.
Used to be Ramblin'.
Yeah, those are some of the entry-level brew
Entry.
root beers you could have.
Whoa.
A&W.
A&W's great. We should.
Are
go
they
to
still in business?
one. They're not a lot of them. We should bring them back.
you still buy A&W at the store, though.
And they've
Yeah.
cream
I
soda,
would
too.
think the drive-in would be.
I love it.
But, Paul, can I ask, as a root beer float specialist, do you like it with soft serve ice cream or with regular ice cream better?
Golly.
That to me
There's
that
only
looks,
one right
that looks
answer
a little
here.
more
You got to do the
appetizing,
hard
yeah.
scooped ice cream.
That seems an easier process.
Yeah.
No, you got to have like that ball to scoop and plop it in, not the machine.
Man, that looks unbelievable. Every
So is
time
today's poll question root beer float
Overrated, underrated?
Yes.
Ooh,
Yes.
I like that one.
Great. Problem solved.
We'll hear from Dan Levitard.
Yeah. He'd be lucky to have this kind of content.
In high school, I wanted to be Jack Tatum. I wanted to hit people, and the coach wanted me to play quarterback. We didn't have one, and he says, "Marcus, you're the best athlete on the team, and we need you to play quarterback." And I didn't want to play, but I went under center anyway, and I took the snaps. I took 8 of them and fumbled every single one of them on purpose, and he kicked me off the team. Now, I was the best player in San Diego, and I said, this guy's crazy. My dad is going to be irate. He's going to be, right?
Yeah.
And so my dad shot me when I got home and told him, he says, well, that's between you two. And so he didn't rescue me, which was one of the greatest things that ever happened. And so I had to go back and apologize. And I said, can I come back on the team, coach? And he said, yes. So I played quarterback. And as a result of playing quarterback and running the ball, I was recruited by SC as a defensive back, and to my great fortune, all the running backs behind Charlie White were hurt. They didn't have anybody, so they asked me to come over to play, and that's how it happened.
And so you were a fullback for a couple of years?
Oh, just 1 year.
Oh, 1
After
year.
the sophomore year, and then I got the chance to play. John Robinson, one of my favorite coaches of all time, because he changed my life. He really did.
How much doubt did you have being a running back, like being able to do that?
Well, I had some doubt going in because I really never played it. I never played the position. I played it, I shouldn't say never, but I played it once in Pop Warner when I was 11. And other than that, I was on defense. And so there was a little bit of doubt, but I thought...
Because normally we'll take an offensive player and you can make him a defensive player. If you could be a defensive back if you were a wide receiver.
I was a good athlete though.
Yeah.
I mean, and so I was. It was going to just take some knowledge, and a little time, a little bit of effort on my part, a lot of work and stuff. But I thought I could make the transition pretty well.
Play of the day.
Runner left side, got it! They're gonna play it and play it.
This is the play of the day. Check this out.
Hopelessness with Caraballo. He knew he would be outclassed, outskilled, and he goes down here in round number 6, halfway through round 6, as Shakur Stevenson placed the money punch. A one and done from Shakur Stevenson after 6 rounds of having it his way.
22-year-old Shakur Stevenson cruises to a 6th round TKO last night, courtesy of the mothership. Play of the day. Play of the day brought to you by great earbuds, Raycon. Whether you're working from home or working on your fitness, you want to hear music, not your roommate or your family's music, and Raycon, R-A-Y-C-O-N, wireless earbuds are the way to go. Get 15% off your Raycon order today. BuyRaycon.com/Patrick. That's BuyRaycon.com/Patrick. Snarky email here from James. Will Aaron Rodgers eventually be talked about like Dan is talking about Wilt Chamberlain right now, if that makes sense? Well, maybe it's not meant to be snarky. No, I think Aaron Rodgers would have to do a little bit more in his sport. Aaron Rodgers doesn't have gaudy numbers. Like his impressive numbers are touchdown to interception ratio. That's it. Wilt's got gaudy numbers. Wilt is second in points per game in NBA history. And he's just slightly behind Michael Jordan. And keep in mind, Wilt Chamberlain got bored with scoring. He scored so much, he got bored. And then he decided that he was going to play the role that Bill Russell did with the Celtics, and that is rebound, block shots. And that's when the Lakers had one of the greatest seasons in NBA history, when they won 33 games in a row. Paul in Iowa. Hey, Paul, what do you have for me today?
Hey, DP, 5'11", 170.
Yeah.
Hey, so my friends don't agree with me on this, and I'm assuming you won't either, but I think that Wilt Chamberlain is only a top 20 player because of his individual statistics.
Okay.
Because if you look at on the court, if he got bodied by Bill Russell every time it mattered, Bill Russell's Sean Kemp size. He wouldn't have been able to do anything in the 90s against bigger boys like Olajuwon, Ewing, Robinson, Shaq.
Well,
He's lucky he
what do you
played in
think?
the 60s.
What do you think Bill Russell would have done?
Well, he wouldn't have been as dominant because there were more big guys.
I know, but everybody,
Wilt,
people have Bill Russell in the top 5. How would Bill Russell do with Akeem Olajuwon and David Robinson? And he was 6'8", maybe 6'9".
Yeah, he'd have less championships.
Well, okay, and thank you, Paul. But what happens is we diminish or denigrate because, well, how would they do in today's NBA? It's just not the way it works. How would Wilt do? He was still 7'1", 275 back then. What would he be now? He'd be 7'1", 300 pounds, probably, and able to run the floor. I mean, he was a great athlete. Track and field. He was also a great volleyball player. I mean, Wilt was a great athlete. It's just we recognize Babe Ruth. We've embraced Babe Ruth. He was larger than life. But Wilt Chamberlain, with his numbers, we're like, nope, not going to include you in there. And I don't know where he is placed. It feels like most top 10 rankings. Is Wilt Chamberlain in the top 10 rankings, McLovin?
I think so. There was a list recently from ESPN. I'll pull it up, but I think he was like 5.
Well, there's got to be a list from ESPN because they lead the league in lists.
Yeah, he's definitely in like top 4 or 5 area.
Okay. Yeah, I always wondered that. If it's, Jordan, LeBron, is it Bill Russell? Who else does Wilt then fall in line there? Yeah, Paulie.
In the latest ESPN list, he was 6th.
Okay. In 10 years, I don't know if Wilt's in there. I don't know if Bird is in there. Is Bird like 9? 8 or 9?
Bird 7.
7? Yeah.
And then Duncan 8. I think Duncan might get pushed out a little bit.
Yeah, but he's got the 5 titles. We pick and choose when titles are really important and who wins those titles. Yeah, Paulie.
Bleacher Report had a list recently, and number 9 all time was Wilt Chamberlain. Number 10 was Steph Curry.
Yeah.
So you talk about people getting pushed out.
Yeah.
And then you have, you go down the list, and there's other players that are on his heels.
Wait, give me the top 10 there because it starts
From Bleacher
with
Report?
Yeah.
Okay.
Jordan and then LeBron is 2 all time.
From Bleacher Report's most recent list they put out, deep dive.
Okay.
Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, which are always put together, by the way, Shaquille O'Neal, Tim Duncan, Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, and Steph Curry.
Wait, where's Kobe?
He is not on the top 10.
Oh, come on. That's silly.
Oscar Robertson is 11. David Robinson is 12.
Where's Kobe?
I don't know.
Oh, come on. That's silly. Did it at a high level. Won titles, 5 titles.
Yeah, this was from September of 2019.
Well, Kobe wasn't playing anymore. Okay. Look, it's all subjective. I get it. It's just like the greatest shooters of all time. I saw where Rob Parker, who I think writes for Deadspin, said that Ray Allen is a better shooter all time than Steph Curry.
Yeah, because Curry never hit big shots in the playoffs, threes.
Well, wait, what's that mean?
He threw out these numbers that Curry's shooting percentage goes down at the end of big playoff games. That was his clutch shots is what he gave Ray Allen, which is true. Ray Allen was a great clutch shooter.
Okay, but he was a clutch shooter where he wasn't even the focal point of his team with the Miami Heat.
I'm aware of this.
So he was a role player. See, this is silly.
Ray Allen occasionally hit big shots. Steph Curry hit shots the entire ride to get to the title.
And the entire game. Maybe he didn't have that dramatic moment like Ray did against the Spurs, but come on. I was in a good mood. Fritzy, tell us some... No. Never mind. 1 hour in the books. 2 more to go this Wednesday. Dan Patrick Show. Christian, his quarterback rating is better than Russell Wilson's.
Oh, no. Wow.
No, but it is, right?
One for
Technically
one,
it is.
touchdown.
You're 1
There
for
you go.
1.
Okay.
So you threw the touchdown pass this year.
You know, usually when a running back throws a pass, it looks like a quarterback with his opposite hand, like a left-handed pass. So.
And it's a lot higher.
Yeah. So this is
Like
no
the
problem.
Madden one.
So if you wanted to, and if you want to smoke him, like you can, like I have insurance, okay?
Waivers
We have lawyers standing by, so don't worry about any of that.
All right.
So,
All right, say it. Let's go.
All right, what are you running?
I'm wide
what
open.
was the pass you threw
Everyone's
for the
diving in on you.
Run a little corner.
Okay, wait. Now, am I Cam and I throw?
You handed it off here.
Okay, I'm handing it to you.
Yeah, you hand it here.
Okay.
So you say HUD, it's on you.
Well, no, I got to do the whole signal.
That's fair.
Let me do
call,
the whole thing.
You can call out the mic.
Blue 85, 53 is the mic.
Yep.
Set, hot.
Oh, wow.
Nice catch.
Did he complete the act?
Wait. I got a real quarterback over here.
McLovin wanted to bring in
I got a guy who can throw a real pass here.
There you go.
Can we have him throw one to me, Dan? I don't want to have to die.
Can we have a real receiver catch?
Wait, I thought that with one hand.
You did. That was pretty good.
Yeah.
What's up, brother? Hey, what's up, man? How you doing, man? Good, how are you? Great to see you. Good to see you. What's up, Dan?
Buddy.
How you doing, man?
How are you?
Good to see you, bro.
Did you bring your wife?
How's your ankle?
Take it easy.
I know.
He's the only guy I know. When he shows up, I'm disappointed when he doesn't bring his wife. Are you okay?
I'm okay. I want to run one for Russell.
After Christian McCaffrey threw a pass, Russell Wilson came in because McLovin said he wanted a real quarterback to throw him a football. And you did pretty well. You hung in there with Russell Wilson bringing a little heat there.
Yeah, I mean, a shorter quarterback, though it was. Actually, he threw one that clipped the top of my head at about 100 miles an hour, and I think it was like Johnny Appleseed moment where...
As McLovin goes, well, Russell's more of a finesse-type quarterback. And
I take that back.
All right. Our next guest is a celebrated NFL player, but is more known for being married to the incredibly talented and beautiful Sierra. She is wildly successful as a singer and a performer and has appeared in several movies, including That's My Boy, alongside me. She is also incredibly dedicated to her community and charity work. Can't say enough about her. Why she married a minor league baseball player, we'll never know. Please welcome Russell Wilson Jr. the third.
What's up, Swat? That's for you, too.
Thank you. Wait. See, once again, you guys get complimented all the time, and then you come in, you're angry, and you start throwing the football at us.
No, just making sure you guys know what's best for you. McLovin, you had some good hands, brother.
Thanks, man. I have
You
Seahawks.
play high school receiver or something?
No.
Would he be on the all-hands team on the Seahawks?
No.
He would not be?
No.
Okay.
Kind of like a tight end, like a backup tight end.
He'd be like a
Luke Wilson type?
He'd definitely be like a walkthrough kind of all-hands team kind of guy.
Like a practice squad
Yeah, the guy that, well, no, not practice squad, the guy that you kind of just throw in there to really get hit. That'd be him.
Buckle up, boys. Time to go to work.
Welcome to the Dan Patrick Show.
Dan Patrick.
Baseball, tap you on the shoulder when you got some information here, because it feels like it's this verbal game of ping pong that's played between the players and the owners. We don't care about the money. We couldn't care less about the money. We just want to know. It's like, I don't care about the labor pains. Just show me the baby. All right? Show me the baby, and I'll get you a nice gift.
Excuse me.
I cared about my wife's labor pains.
You better be sure about that.
I really did. But I don't care about baseball's labor pains.
Dan is joined by Paulie, Seton, McLovin, and Fritz.
What do you got on? Your T-shirt
Got
looks
a very
like
snug L when we all know I'm at least an XL.
if that T-shirt can make a noise, it'd probably be.
See that? Yeah. Yeah, that's fine.
Broadcasting from the Mercedes Man Cave. This is Dan Patrick.
Hour 2 on this Wednesday. Dan and the Danettes. Dan Patrick Show. Talk some basketball coming up a little bit later on. We have a new game. Guess That Quote. This might be the first time we've ever played Guess That Quote. Do we have theme music for Guess That Quote?
We're working on it. It's moments away.
We're curating it as we speak.
Oh, I like that. 877-3DP Show. Email address dp@danpatrick.com. Twitter handle @DP Show. Say good morning to our radio and TV partners. You can watch this program on youtube.com/The Dan Patrick Show. After the recent success of Tiger Woods, Peyton Manning versus Phil Mickelson and Tom Brady, the PGA is trying something new at the Charles Schwab Invitational this weekend. They're going to mic up the golfers, try to expand their access to competitors for the first tournament back. This will be on CBS, and you're going to have some banter here back and forth. Golf's trying to shed the buttoned-up image that it's had for decades. They took a big step forward when Tiger arrived on the scene. Remember the famous fist pump? You weren't allowed to show you weren't supposed to show emotion. Remember when Tom Watson chips in on the 17th hole at Pebble Beach where he goes on to win the U.S. Open? And he's so excited, and then he has to compartmentalize. He has to go, then he stops, and then you have to have that decorum there. It's a gentleman's sport here, playing golf. But hard to add too much hype to a sport that demands absolute silence in the middle of a swing. And if you're a golf fan, probably just happy to see the players back. I don't know how it's going to sound. Jim Nantz is going to be in the 18th tower by himself. Nick Faldo, who's going to be the analyst for the telecast, is going to be in Orlando at the Golf Channel studios there. But if you're looking for big picture, trying something new could be a positive step towards making golf a little more enjoyable and reach a wider audience. I just don't know, miking up the players, how much. I mean, there's familiarity. I just don't know how much talking is involved, or there will be, because these guys aren't really competing with the guy next to them at their, in their twosome. They're competing with themselves to post a great number. Now, if this is Sunday late afternoon, I don't know how much smack talk they're going to be. We had that with the reason why it worked with Tiger and Phil was because it was Peyton and Brady. Those were the guys that were doing the talking. Tiger didn't say much. He had a couple of lines in there. Phil gave us a tutorial, gave us a lesson on just about every shot, but Peyton's one of the great trash talkers, and then Brady started to make some shots. Now it was interesting. Yes, Eden.
Well, I hate admitting this because I'm supposed to be an adult. But remember when you had all those videos of Tiger farting? And it was awesome. It was so hilarious.
But that was David Faraday, who had his fart machine. And he was behind Tiger, and he had a relationship, or has a relationship with Tiger, where he could do it, and he would crack up Tiger.
Yeah, so I'm all about that content.
I don't know if you can do that now, but and Faraday's not on the course anymore. Yeah, Paulie.
But do you think with the golf and being mic'd up, they'll pause at certain points when a player's going from one tee to the next and say, "Can we get a minute with you?" And they'll do a little chat. It'll be benign. And then also, I would assume that someone from the PGA Tour will be there, almost like a filter, to make sure that nothing offensive gets through, and they go like the NFL does.
I don't know if we get to listen to everything, or they're just going to pick and choose and say, "Oh, we had this exchange last hole," and then they'll bring back a little clip there and go, "Okay, I don't know if that's really going to add to anything here with the PGA Tour. Yes, McLove.
I saw a report of some of the names they might mic up. It might be Ricky Fowler and Graham McDowell. That's not going to get me anywhere. Does it have to be the right player?
Well, I want to know if there's an exchange there. I want to know if, when Phil and Tiger had their first match, it wasn't interesting because they didn't really have much to say, and then they clammed up on the final, 5 or 6 holes. It wasn't entertaining at all. This time around, they realized we got to get more involved, and then you had Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. That's what made it enjoyable. But I can't sit here and go, I can't wait to hear this guy, Kevin Kisner, mic'd up. I'm just throw out a name there. Yeah, see.
You know who I saw as playing this weekend? Remember Maverick McNeely?
Yeah.
Didn't he come to the Pebble Beach set?
Yeah, we met him in Pebble Beach.
Yeah.
Great name.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's a strong name.
That's a movie name.
Star power name.
Yeah. But I don't know. Golf's coming back, and it's like, oh, by the way, I don't think people realize this event, I think, starts tomorrow at Colonial. The Charles Schwab Invitational there. Tiger's not playing in this, is he? I don't think so.
He's not.
Okay.
But the top 5 players are in 16 of the top 20. That's like they're calling. They're putting out a.
Wait, is Tiger not a top 5 player?
I guess not. No.
He's not.
Yeah, because he probably didn't play enough tournaments. You know PGA rankings?
Oh, yeah.
I'll double check
That's right.
that.
Okay. All right, poll question. I don't know what we had in the first hour. We
it
were
was-
all over the map in the first hour.
It was the over-under on baseball season
okay.
games. 74.5 set by our guy Max.
Yeah, in Vegas.
72% say it will go under that number.
All right. Yeah, I'm going over. I'm gonna go at 75 or more for Major League Baseball when they come back. I'm optimistic. I'm not Danny Downer today. I'm optimistic. Let me see. We talked about Wilt Chamberlain's greatness. For some reason, I dove into the record books last night. I was bored, and I started looking at stats. I looked at Pete Maravich's stats, Oscars, Jerry West, Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain. And then I brought it in this morning, and I just thought, you know what? People look at stats, and we use stats, in accordance to how it strengthens or weakens your argument. And, I was looking at Wilt Chamberlain, and we don't embrace his numbers, but we embrace Babe Ruth's numbers. And I don't know why, but we do. Wilt was never embraceable. Babe Ruth, womanizer, drinking, partying, but he was a great baseball player. Plus, we didn't get to see him on TV, or people back then, it was on radio. You became larger than life. Wilt was larger than life, but that wasn't good enough for people. And he didn't win enough. And that we embrace Allen Iverson more than Wilt Chamberlain. We like the little guy, the guy that you can identify with. That's why we love Steph Curry. We love Steve Nash. Look at those little guys out there. It's the big guy like Shaq. How come you don't win more? You need to make free throws. Okay. Like we only look at certain guys in their free throw percentages. Wilt Chamberlain didn't shoot well from the line. Bill Russell didn't shoot well from the line. Shaq didn't shoot well from the line. We tend to pick and choose what's important when it comes to, and I said that there's going to be 10 or 15 years down the road where you might not have Larry Bird, Wilt Chamberlain, still in the top 10 greatest players of all time. Is Karl Malone in the top 10? I think he's on the outside.
No, he's always in that 11 through 20 range.
Okay. Because Steph Curry is going to move up the list. Let's say they make another run, and why wouldn't they? You get the number 1 overall pick. You get everybody else healthy. If he adds 1 more title or 2 more titles, Steph Curry, widely recognized the greatest shooter of all time, greatest shooter of all time, he's going to go in, and somebody's got to drop out here. Kobe should be higher on these lists. In my opinion, he should be higher on these lists. Yes, he.
But it's kind of like we were talking about, I don't know, recently with Steph, where the game was different after he entered the league. He changed the game.
Yes.
You have to be, if you're somebody who changed the game, you have to be high on that list.
Well, you would think, and I have no problem with that. It's not, people have recency bias. I don't have recency anti-bias. Like, I don't go, oh, wow, that guy's a great shooter. But if he played back in the 70s or 60s, no. And I don't do it the other way around. Well, he couldn't play in today, but he could play back in the 60s and 70s. I just know in your era, in your generation, how did you do? And Steph Curry changed the game. You want to put him in there, greatest shooter of all time? I don't think you have anybody arguing that. And if he has championships, which is really important, you got championships. How is history going to treat Russell Westbrook? How's history going to treat James Harden? How's history going to treat the Greek Freak? What if the Greek Freak doesn't have any titles? What if he ends up with 3 titles? Like LeBron wins one more. LeBron is top 5 already. But you start to look at these lists. Magic will go down a little bit, but he shouldn't because of the number of titles that he won. Larry had a 3-year window where 4-year window, he was the best player in the game, winning 3 MVPs. He has 3 NBA championships. But I don't know. It feels like that out of sight, out of mind here, that people are going to forget the greatness that a lot of these players displayed on a night-in, night-out basis. Yeah, Paul.
Steph Curry might need a second act or after this injury to cement himself as a top 10 player because his first 4 years in the league, he did not make the All-Star team. He had ankle injuries and missed some games here and there. Mm-hmm. But then he had a 6-year run where he was probably the most entertaining player in the sport, captivating player. Maybe not the best, but the most captivating. And now he's on to this back half of his career.
But he just broke his left hand, not even his shooting hand, I believe. And they're going to have Clay, and they're going to have Draymond, and you're going to have a number 1 pick. They're going to be, a force to be reckoned with again. Yeah, McLevin.
Steph's got injury issues, always has. I mean,
well, when he first came in, he had the ankle issue, and then they almost traded him.
I mean, the year they lost to LeBron and the Cavs, he missed 2 series right before. I mean, he slipped and hurt his knee. That was a big deal. I mean, I don't know if the series would have gone differently, but he always feels brittle, right? Like he's going to get hurt again, isn't he? That's why I was glad he's not coming back.
Well, no, he came back.
No, I don't think he did. Did he? He
Steph.
came back. Oh, he came back at the end?
Yeah, he played 4 games. Yeah, he broke his left hand.
Oh, my God. Then what am I? So it wasn't even a leg thing?
No, it was Klay Thompson with the leg. And as we finally found out, Durant's not coming back. People were holding out hope or saying, yeah, I'm hearing. And I said, no, he's not coming back. Need not. John in North Carolina. Hey, John, what do you have for me today?
Hey, Dan, 5'9", 250.
All right.
My thing about Wilt Chamberlain is we consider that 3-year period where Shaq was with Kobe and won 3 straight titles, Shaq to be not even arguably the most dominant big man in the NBA at that time. But we don't give the same credit to Wilt Chamberlain for being the greatest basketball player during his era, and I don't understand why it's not clicking with some people as to why his greatness has to be diminished just because Bill Russell won.
Well, that's the label that he has, and thank you, John. That sounded like John Thompson.
A lot like.
But he said he was 5'9", so if he said he was 6'11", I'd go, oh, that's the former Georgetown head coach. Yeah, I think Wilt's been forgotten. If Oscar didn't average a triple-double and win 1 championship, then we might forget Oscar. Oscar every year was averaging 27 and 10. 27 points, 10 assists. Good field goal percentage, good free throw shooter. But if you don't have that gimmick, the only reason why people bring up Oscar is, and they never saw him play, is, well, he averaged a triple-double. And that was anytime somebody said Oscar Robertson, they go, oh, he averaged triple-double. Bill Russell, he won 11 titles. Like everybody, it feels like has a designation. Wilt, he never won the big one. He couldn't win the big one. He wasn't a winner. He was a loser. He quit on his team. Wilt has this. Shaq, they should have won more at the Lakers. There's always something there with these players. Tim Duncan, yeah, but he had Hall of Famers around him. Hall of Fame coach, David Robinson, Hall of Famer, Ginobili, Hall of Famer, Tony Parker, Hall of Famer. Everybody has. Karl Malone, he never won the big one. Never won championship. Barkley never won championship. Jerry West, he only won 1. He lost all those NBA finals. Everybody has one like description that's attached to them. And that's what happened. That's happened for decades now. And then Russell Westbrook averaged a triple-double a couple times. And then we went, yeah, but anybody can average a triple-double. Like we diminished that. When he said, no, I can do that. But back then, when shooting percentages were worse, where you could get more rebounds. Now, you might say it was harder to get assists. And Oscar played on a bad team. But Russell Westbrook basically turned that stat on its ear, triple-double. Yeah, no big deal. How many times do you want me to do it here? But I tend to stand up for Wilt, even though he told me to get the bleep off the Laker bus in my one encounter with him back in the early 70s. And he was right. I should have gotten off the bleeping bus because who am I to go on the bus? I was not an employee of the Lakers back then. I was probably 12 years old, and I wanted an autograph from Wilt Chamberlain.
I respect the move. That's guts.
Oh, my God. We were just standing outside of the Lakers bus in Cincinnati. And Wilt sat in the first seat. And my friends were like, you should go on there. You should go up there and get his autograph. And I thought, well, the Royals are moving out of town. I'll never see Wilt again. At least in my mind, I was not going to see him. I thought, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to walk on the... I took 2 steps. And he stood up and said, get the bleep off the bus. So he has to duck because he stands up. And I went, oh, my God. So he's already, I'm on the second step. So he's like 7'7" to me the way, and here I am probably 5'10". And, excuse me, can I have your autograph, Mr. Chamberlain? And he stood up, get the F off the bus. And then I got off, and then my friends go, what did he say? What did he say? And I said, he told me to get the F off the bus. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. I'm shaking. Yeah, Paul.
Have you guys ever had a really good or really bad autograph experience, like in your first 20 years when you asked for autographs?
Well, that one was.
But has anyone else had one where like, oh, that messed me up, or wow, that guy came through, that athlete came through and did it when I didn't expect it?
I remember hating Willie Mays for decades just because I was in Scottsdale at a spring training game, and I yelled out to him as he's coming in between innings to sign my program, and he didn't. And I was probably like 6 years old. And I held that against Willie Mays all of these years. And it wasn't his fault. He's playing a game. I'm going, hey, well, he was signing my, and he didn't. I'm like, I hate Willie Mays. I love Hank Aaron. All right, we'll take a break. We'll talk some basketball here. Howard Beck, friend of the show, is going to join us coming up. Been a while since we've talked to him. He wrote a great article, and this is a long one. It's called Bryant to Shaq. 2 decades after one of the wildest turning points in NBA history, Lakers Blazers recall the lob that tied Kobe and Shaq together forever, sparked a three-peat, and upended a powerhouse. This is a long, great detail in here, too. Great detail. Talk to almost all the principals in there. So we'll talk some basketball with Howard Beck. And Bob Costas will join us coming up in an hour from now. We'll get to more phone calls as well. 18 after the hour here on the Dan Patrick Show. You check things all the time like your email, your Instagram, but what about checking something important as your credit? Discover makes it quick and easy. Best of all, it's free. Discover's now offering FICO credit scores. That's the score used by 90% of top lenders, and they'll do that for free even if you're not a customer. Checking your score won't hurt your credit, and you can check each month for changes. The Discover Credit Scorecard is what it's called. It's free for everyone. Learn more at discover.com/credit scorecard. That's discover.com/credit scorecard. Limitations apply. If I blindfolded you from the free throw line, how many do you think you could make out of 100?
Out of 100?
Yeah.
Damn. I mean, do I get to stop and take a break? I don't know if I can shoot 100 blindfolded.
All right, I'm going to do. I want to know what your percentage would be if you shot a total of 100 free throws blindfolded, and I did it in 20 increments of 20.
In increments of 20, I would say out of 10, let's start with 10. I'd make 7 out of 10.
Okay.
And then,
so you're blindfolded, Ray, and you shoot better than guys who can actually see.
yeah, because, the one thing about basketball, and I've learned this, is that the court doesn't change. There's no elements, wind, rain. I shoot that free throw line every single day after every drill, every routine. And really, whenever I'm in a slump or, I can't get my timing, I go to the free throw line. So a lot of times, how the ball needs to leave your fingers. You put your foot on the nail at the free throw line. So it's just really getting the ball in the air and sitting it on that rim soft enough. So even if you don't swish it, the ball will have a chance to go in.
Yeah, that's how we, the great ones, do it, Ray.
It takes a lot of work. And tell you what, when you're retired, you don't have to sit back and have nightmares about it every single day. I got to tell you this. I could be watching a college game or an NBA game the night before a game, and I see one player miss a free throw, and that's going to have me have a bad night. Because I'm thinking, I do not want that to be me. I don't want it to be me.
But, Ray, you're not playing anymore.
That's why I said in retirement, that's the beautiful thing about having those nightmares not exist anymore. Like, I don't have to worry about it.
That
you want to perform.
But when you go to the line and it's quiet in the gym and everybody's watching, and would you rather have it dead silent or people yelling and screaming as you go to the line with the game on the line?
Well, that's interesting because, I'm in the gym all day long where it's dead quiet, before, 9 in the morning, 8 in the morning, then, before a game, I'm always by myself shooting free throws. So when it's game time, I go back to that moment in my head. You kind of stay into yourself. You focus on, your hand, your ball, where your feet need to be. You focus on the rim. You really clear the people out of your mind. And you just do what you've been doing. And so what you have to do when you're by yourself is you have to almost bring those people into the building with you while you're shooting so you can get familiar in that situation. So it's a weird way of imposing people in and out of your existence while you're competing. So, that's the only way you can do it great, especially down the stretch when it comes to being down 2 and you have to make 2 free throws. It's like you can see that guy step to the free throw line like, oh no, he doesn't look too good stepping these free throws.
Always great to see you.
Good to see you, too.
I asked this of Michael Irvin when he came in the other day. I said, how fast could Dion run the 40 right now? He goes,
this is one step. Didn't we do this last year?
Well, you ran backwards.
Who did I beat?
You beat all of us.
All of y'all.
You ran backwards.
I'm for inclusiveness, whatever the word is.
Yeah. So if you had, now you have the bad toe.
Yeah.
Wait, you're going to show us the bad toe?
Yeah. We're a family.
Oh, wow. How did you get that bad toe?
That's 3 surgeries. Mooch tells me that toe is flipping everybody off.
So we don't mean to be giving you the finger if you're watching,
right, that's
or
the
toe.
Ladies, that's a nice pedicure, right?
But how did you get that?
It's the closest thing they call to turf toe. And it was just horrendous. I mean, I've never felt anything like it. And it was so bad that it began to be hammer toe.
Yeah.
So they had to shave it down and straighten it out, and that's what I got. But you could hit it on top with a hammer because it's numb. It's numb right now, but it hurts.
Well, that's like Mr. Deeds with
exactly.
Adam Sandler. Right?
Exactly.
They took a crowbar and they're hitting his feet. But how fast? If you're healthy,
one step faster than the next man. You can't put a time on Prime. Just one step back. I run as fast as I got to run.
This program is brought to you by Mercedes-AMG. Be prepared for whatever comes your way. It's the all-new GT 4-door coupe because life is a race. Visit your local dealership for a test drive today. If you missed any of our interviews this week or any week from the Mercedes-AMG Man Cave, go to the DP Show app. Watch and listen from inside the Mercedes-AMG Man Cave, Mercedes-AMG Driving Performance. Paulie, you came up with a new game called Guess That Quote.
This is actually a Seton O'Connor production.
Oh.
I am just a general contractor here. But it's hot, it's new, and we have special music we made just for this
event.
Okay, here we go with Guess That Quote. Feels like this is a theme song that we use for a lot of things on this show.
It's slightly tweaked.
Okay. Guess That Quote. Seton O'Connor, what's the quote?
All right. Well, it's hopefully you all don't know this because that would really take the sting out of the game show. But someone recently said this: I know what I'm worth, and I know day in and day out, without publicly coming in and saying it, that historically I'm one of the best quarterbacks to play the game.
Yeah, I know who it is. Yeah, Paul.
Based on that quote and the state of this person's career, it doesn't sound like he would say it, but it could have been Dak Prescott.
No, it's a backup quarterback. His name is...
I know what I'm worth, and I know day in and day out, without publicly coming in and saying it, that historically I'm one of the best quarterbacks to play the game.
Isn't he publicly saying it?
He is publicly
Yes, he is.
saying it now, currently.
Yes, say hello to Jameis Winston. Yay. I was trying to be nice to him and not bring it up on the show today, but you brought it up and guessed that quote. But Jameis Winston, historically, is one of the great quarterbacks of all time. Although, as McLovin says, the number of yards he threw for is one of the, top 10 in NFL history?
Oh, it's got to be.
Yeah, great. Howard Beck joins us on loan from Bleacher Report, senior NBA writer. His most recent column, Bryant to Shaq, 2 decades after one of the wildest turning points in NBA history. Lakers, Blazers, royalty recall the lob that tied Kobe and Shaq together forever, sparked a three-peat, and upended a powerhouse. Good morning, Howard. When did you decide to do Bryant to Shaq?
Good morning, Dan. And let me just humbly say that without saying it publicly, I think this is one of the greatest oral histories I've ever written.
Well done.
Obviously I covered that series for the LA Daily News back in the day, and it was just always one of my favorite games, one of my favorite moments, that lob, and one of my favorite series. And it's also just this wonderful sliding doors moment because, of course, they were down 15 in the fourth quarter of that game and probably arguably should have lost. And if they had, there is no dynasty. And the Blazers probably win the championship, and history is much different. And I've wanted to return to this for a long time. I almost did it 4 years ago. In fact, your upcoming guest, Bob Costas, and I spoke 4 years ago when I first started poking around to do something on this. It got shelved at the time. We revived it more recently, unfortunately, for 2 reasons: the 20th anniversary of that game, and also, of course, the passing of Kobe in January.
Favorite interview with this was who?
Well, I got 5 players from each team, plus Mike Dunleavy Sr. Phil Jackson and I emailed a little bit, but that was it. So I got a lot of great voices. I think out of all of them, Bonzi was really great. Bonzi was a lot of fun. Bonzi Wells was one of these guys who back in the day, I think had kind of, this jaded view of him, the reputation because of those Blazers teams at the time, that he was looked at as kind of a young knucklehead and, part of that crew that was often derided as the jail Blazers, which I think is a terrible, unfortunate term that still unfortunately lives. Bonzi was wonderful. He could tell you all of the pain and anguish of being part of that collapse, but in a way that history and time has given him the perspective of it. He was candid. He was fun to talk to. He told me this great thing that did not make the piece, which I just want to throw in real quick. He said that before Game 7, which on a Sunday, that night, a Saturday night, he says, I went to bed at 10 o'clock. I went to bed at 10 o'clock on a Saturday night in LA because I knew I had to deal with Kobe. And I knew that Kobe Bryant wasn't going to be out partying on a Saturday night. And so the only person on earth who could make me go to bed at 10 o'clock on a Saturday night in LA was Kobe.
Yeah, you look back on that era, and I remember saying it when they broke up, that we'll remember what they didn't accomplish and not necessarily what they did accomplish. Do you know what the real core, the reason was that Shaq and Kobe broke up?
It was layered, Dan. I mean, the easy reductive version is, well, Kobe didn't want him there anymore, and Kobe had all the leverage in the world because he was entering free agency. And if Shaq had stayed, Kobe could have walked across the hallway to the Clippers, which he had flirted with doing all season, and in fact had sent very strong signals, including to Mike Dunleavy, who was at that time the coach of the Clippers, and I think GM as well. So there was that, and that's not to be diminished, but there were other factors. Shaq wanted a max extension, which at that time, remember, Shaq's salary had been grandfathered in before there were maxes in the NBA. There was no max salary when he got his big deal to join the Lakers in the first place. So they were constantly building on this huge salary that was bigger than anybody else's, and he was getting up there. in just years and mileage. He of course had some serious injuries, or at least nagging injuries. So Jerry Buss didn't want to give him the extension to the extent that Shaq wanted it. So Shaq had been pouting all year about that. And so that was a big part of it too, Dan. But yeah, listen, at the core of it, you could see it in the 2004 finals against Detroit. Kobe and Shaq wanted nothing to do with each other by that point. They hadn't been split up technically, but they were already done.
Talking to Howard Beck, Bleacher Report senior NBA writer, the column, and it's a deep dive. It's great. There's so much detail here, and talking to the principals involved in this. Bryant to Shaq, it's on Bleacher Report. I was talking about Wilt Chamberlain's place in history, and it feels like we don't embrace him the way we do Babe Ruth. There's certain guys that we pick and choose of what we point out or what we leave out. Bill Russell was a flawed offensive player, shot 44% from the floor, wasn't a good free throw shooter, but he won 11 titles. Kobe won 5, but he can't be Michael, so, how high do you put him up? Like, it's weird how we pick and choose. Tim Duncan, hey, he's the greatest power forward of all time. He's a center, but he wanted to be a power forward. I just don't know, in 10 or 15 years from now, who is in the top 10 now that won't be in the top 10 greatest players of all time. Who's going to fall out and who's going in your opinion?
Oh, boy. I guess it depends on who's in your top 10 right now. It's and by the way, like for me, every time I'm ever asked this, I always punt. And it's not because I'm trying to be cowardly or squeamish. It's just comparing players and teams across the eras in the NBA, maybe more than any other sport, is just impossible. The game has evolved so much, has changed in so many dramatic ways. The style of play, the pace of play, even the obviously the width of the key, like everything changes. And so it's hard to make these comparisons, Dan. And, you were alluding to it earlier before I came on about the narratives or the taglines that we affix to each of these guys. And I think they're appropriate because it's our shorthand way of encapsulating what they meant, right? What Bill Russell meant was he was the ultimate champion. We don't get into the stats and the nitty gritty, and we don't have as much data for that era anyway. It stands on its own. He was the greatest champion of all time. Wilt, the most dominant of all time. And it doesn't matter how many championships he won. Michael Jordan is just simply the GOAT. And LeBron is trying to challenge him for that. And some people think it's a 1-2 race, and others say, no, you're forgetting Kareem, who was the real greatest of all time. You can go round and round on this. I mean, Kevin Durant, you asked who's going to break in.
Yeah.
If Kevin Durant's not already in, I think he should be.
Yeah, I left him out. So you got Steph, who's going to be in. Durant's going to be in. And I guess I got to make way for the Greek Freak to maybe be a top 10 player of all time. If he wins titles.
I'll stop short on that one only because he's still so early in his career. You can see the outline of one of the all-time greats, and skill set wise and impact on the game over the last couple of years, you can already say that he's there. But longevity matters too, right? The imprint you make needs to last at least kind of a half decade to a decade. So let's wait until we've seen the longevity and how far he can take it all. But yeah, just the sheer dominance on the court, you could put his skill set, his total package of skills up against anybody.
How do you think history treats James Harden?
That's a really, really interesting one. And this is a big, as weird as this postseason is going to be in the Orlando bubble, it's a really important one for him because he's going to turn 31, I think, this summer, maybe during the bubble. And he's got all the accolades, all the individual accomplishments. He is one of the greatest scorers of all time. But, this is when we start really, picking somebody apart. Well, he was one of the greatest scorers we've ever seen, but the aesthetics of his game weren't that appealing to a lot of people. He was one of the greatest scorers of all time, but he never made the finals. He never won a ring. And so he's got that, hanging over him right now. And if he never wins the big one, look, there's we have a long list of guys, Charles Barkley and Karl Malone and John Stockton, Patrick Ewing, guys who we know are all-time greats who never won the big one. It happens. There is some elements of luck and timing and supporting cast and all these other things. But Harden has the added difficulty in this discussion of his own performance is what has often held his teams back in the postseason. So he does have that burden to bear.
But do you think, does history look favorably more so on Russell Westbrook or James Harden?
I think history will look better on James Harden than Russell Westbrook.
Okay.
And look, my bias in this discussion is that of the two of them, I've always thought James Harden was the better overall offensive weapon. Let's face it, neither one of them is going to ever be known for their defense. They're both great playmakers in different ways. And Westbrook had the gaudier stats if you want to count just the triple doubles, which I think have become a little exaggerated in terms of importance, as impressive as it is. Harden is far, far, far more efficient. He is miles better from three-point range and just overall more efficient, whether you're using true shooting percentage or effective field goal percentage or any other measure. Harden is the more efficient player.
Let me go back to your column before I touch on the NBA's plan to return. Where do you rank Shaq and Kobe of greatest duos in NBA history?
It's tough. I mean, I don't want to use my back door out here as I did earlier because I already pulled that card.
Okay,
once.
give me your best duos of all time. You don't have to rank.
So, all right. No, well, look, the one that leaps to mind immediately is Michael and Scottie. They were just the versatility, the two-way impact of the two of them, offensively and defensively. They were just phenomenal. Those teams were beautiful to watch. It was great that we got The Last Dance recently because whether you were, in our age range and had lived through it, watched it as fans, and just got the refresher, or if you were younger fans who never saw them, they just played an incredible brand of basketball. Obviously, Magic and Kareem are right up there. Shaq and Kobe are in the discussion. There's no question. And Shaq, the way Shaq always puts it, and I think did again in my story, is that they're the best, big man guard combo of all time.
Would you put him over Kareem and Magic? Because I wouldn't.
It's tough. Kareem has more overall accomplishments than Shaq. You might lean Kobe over Magic, although Magic's playmaking and maybe the greatest point guard of all time, generally considered that. It's tough. I don't know. I think if you asked Laker fans that, it would be completely breaking along generational lines.
Probably so. We have an idea, a losers tournament, the 8 teams that don't get invited to Orlando. Why not allow them to be, you have a warm-up band when you go see, the Rolling Stones. So you have a warm-up act where you have the 8 teams playing and they play it over 3 games. And then the winner of the tournament gets the number 1 pick in the draft. Single elimination, number 1 pick in the draft, and it's a losers tournament. We eliminate tanking here for good, Howard.
So this is not just for 2020. This is in perpetuity?
Well, let's start this year and then see how it works.
I love the idea, and I love anything that incentivizes the worst teams to actually try.
Here comes the butt. Come on, give me the butt here.
But not this year, because the whole point of the exercise in Orlando is safety. And so the reason we're going 22 and not 30, and frankly, I think it should have been 16, is that more bodies, more teams equals more risk, more tests, more everything. So if you now take the other 8 and put them in their own bubble somewhere and have the losers tournament, you've got to deal with all the coronavirus concerns all over again. There's my
buzzkill. What a buzzkill.
I'm sorry.
The team to beat when this tournament starts is?
The Lakers. They have LeBron. They were the team with the most momentum going into the suspension of the season. They had just beaten the Bucks and Clippers over that prior weekend. And, I picked the Clippers back in October, Dan, and I still feel like top to bottom, the Clippers have the overall better depth collection of talent, and they've got an element in Lou Williams that the Lakers just don't have. They both have a top 2, but the Clippers have a third guy who can drop 25 on a given night. The Lakers just don't. And so I still lean that way intellectually, but the Lakers had the momentum. Now, does momentum get you from March 11th through this massive gap to July 31st? Probably not, but they deserve the benefit of the doubt.
Your wild card team to win it all.
Ooh. I don't think there's a wild card in the West. It's either the Lakers or the Clippers.
The Rockets, you don't think? See, I looked at the Rockets and said, if they happen to capture Magic in a bottle here with their small ball, then they're the team that I would be I would look at them as the outlier here in the West.
They're fun for that reason because they've just got the firepower is amazing. And yes, maybe if things break their way, a couple calls, plus there's no home court advantage.
Yeah.
And we don't know what anybody's going to look like when they come back or what kind of chemistry or rhythm anybody is in. I still think they rely too much on individual talent. James Harden's going to score this time. Russell Westbrook's going to score this time. There's no real collaborative effort there. And that's what breaks down in the playoffs. If you are a superb individual talent, but the rest of the cast is not involved. There's so much isolation play. I think that's where it breaks down for the Rockets. I think the sleepers are in the East. If the Bucks are going in as everybody's, kind of agreed upon favorite, and they should be, Toronto's really strong, even without Kawhi. They've had a phenomenal season. I love the Celtics' young talent and the way they were coming together. I wouldn't put it out of the possibility that
pick one, Howard. You get one. Come on.
Okay, it's Toronto then.
Okay.
They're the defending champs, so that feels cheap, but they're the defending champs without the MVP of the finals.
Yeah, I liked Boston. I guess Philadelphia, are they an outlier here?
I think Philly is in the East what the Rockets are in the West. A lot of question marks, but the talent is there. And now that they've had all this time for Simmons and Embiid to get healthy, there's a shot.
He's Howard Beck, Bleacher Report's senior NBA writer, and it's a great read. You don't have to be a Laker fan. If you're a Blazer fan, you're not going to enjoy this. But it's called Bryant to Shaq, and it's on Bleacher Report. Howard, great to talk to you again. Are you going to Orlando?
Still weighing that right now. I'm not going to go in for the bubble because that requires that long lockdown and way too much time away and very little payoff in terms of access. I'm weighing whether to go just for the finals, but that would probably be it, unfortunately.
Good to talk to you. Thank you, Howard.
Appreciate you, Dan. Thank you.
We'll take a break. Back after this with phone calls. Dan Patrick Show. So through the magic of TV and radio, we're on the basketball court here in the Man Cave with Coach Fizdale of the Knicks. I want you, if you can, even through the magic of radio, explain what you do against James Harden. Now, you've already said he's the most frustrating player in the game. Yeah. Now, if I'm Harden and you're telling your kids how to guard Harden.
Here's the few ways I've told him to guard Harden, and none of them have worked. So let's just let's just get this on the record. So first thing we talk about is maybe picking them up way back in the backcourt and making them work harder.
Okay.
Right? Pressure them.
Mid-court, you're picking him up?
Even further if you can.
Okay.
All right? And you don't want to get overzealous and open up a lane for him to just blow by you, but you want to make him work. But once he starts to get into shooting range, which is about half court,
but okay, so we're out by the three-point line, a little bit further from the NBA three-point line.
You're in that Dame Lillard deep zone area right there.
Steph Curry, okay.
Right? So what most teams are trying to do right now is push him to his right hand.
Yeah.
Well, I think what everybody's starting to see now is he went into the summer and worked on a few things going to his right hand now, and that's not helping because what it pushes him into now is his best shot, which is taking you this way and clearing space and stepping back away from you. And that's his best way of shooting step backs is with his right hand here and getting that ball to his left hand there. So you got a dilemma. Do I force him to his weak hand and it's the hand that he doesn't pass as well with?
But he's better shooter going right.
Dropping back to that area. Or do I send him to his strong hand where he turns the corner, he's dunking, he's a better passer, and he still has a really good step back going that way as well.
But why do they allow him to get away? Tim Hardaway was one of the greats at creating separation. Harden will go left, create, and then he's here.
Now, you asked me why they let him get away with it. You asked me a question that...
You're fine.
Okay. I can't answer that question because there's some things that happen down there, too, that I go, man, is that street legal? Like, you know what I mean?
Okay, but when he does that... Now, do you have more of a problem with the footwork where he looks like...
I do.
Or the push-up?
I'm always complaining about down there. That's what I'm
but I don't need the
about.
footwork if I create separation.
But you know, what he does a good job of with that, where I can't, it's not too much where I don't get too involved with this, is because he's a big guy, right? And he does a good job of just getting his shoulder into you enough where he doesn't fully extend against you. But once he decides to go backwards, I'm like, run that back. Let's watch that
Coach,
again.
they sent a video around to all you guys to say it's not traveling.
Show me your invitation, Dan.
Do you have it? Let me see it.
Because I'm...
That's clean.
Very close. Very close. Okay. Who's next guy? So Harden is unstoppable.
brutal.
Who would be next that you just say?
Giannis.
Okay. Even though he doesn't have that mid-range jumper yet.
Yeah, because of I think it's not just him alone. It's what Bud has done around him and how they space the floor now around him. It's just created this one-on-one situation with a lion.
But he's so, it feels like he's gotten longer.
Yeah.
Or utilized his length.
Not only stronger.
Oh, he's jacked.
Yeah, he's a beast. And the thing with him is because he's so big is once he gets you going a direction, and you'll see him do this a lot, you have to fully commit to stopping him with your whole body. And what he does is he spins off of you all the time.
And plus he'll take one step, you have to take 2 or 3,
and
right?
He unravels, and all of a sudden...
He's like a ladder. He is.
He just
that's
keeps
his nickname.
extending.
He's the ladder.
I like it.
Yeah.
It makes total sense.
Okay,
but that's where he's...
But
he's
Durant
so
has kept the mid-range jumper alive.
unstoppable in that area.
But when do you know, where does he get where you know you can't stop him?
I've always felt like playing against him that if he gets the ball gathered into his hands, it's a make or miss thing now. It's nothing that you can necessarily do. That's how I felt about Dirk. Dirk was the same way. Those 7-foot shooters, those guys that they don't see you down here. Once they get that ball gathered, I've always felt like it's just too difficult.
Last night, went golfing with my wife.
How'd it go?
It was good. Played 9 holes. It was not 9 and dine. It was dine and then 9.
Dine and 9.
Yeah, we had dinner and then we went and played golf.
What's her level of experience?
Very little. Just started. And I was basically a support group. There was a lot of, so if she did this and she'd go, and I go, all right, hit it straight. Like you're picking, you had to be complimentary. And then at one point, my wife goes, you haven't complimented anything in last night, I proved that, once again, no good deed goes unpunished. Went golfing with my wife, and she's just starting out. I got her clubs. Callaway got her some clubs, and I said, all right, hey, take a couple of lessons, get comfortable. So she took a couple lessons, and now she said, let's go play. Went out and played 9 holes. It's a great tutorial in what to say and what not to say, because it can help you. It can help you wherever you are with your wife, not just playing golf, of what to say and how to say it and encouragement. And I almost got through 9 holes without saying something maybe I shouldn't have. Yeah, Paul?
Because if you have a buddy, let's say you're a pretty good golfer and one of your bros says, I'm going to take up the game, and you two go hit the links, you could just berate them and say, like, hey, you hit in the lumberyard, all those good Caddyshack quotes. Yeah. I'm guessing that can't be done with the missus.
Well, she was putting, and she was a little aggressive, a little strong with it. And I said, "You're like a longshoreman." And then she goes, "What does that mean?" I said, "Well, no, you're strong. You hit it strong, like hard." And she goes, "Wait, so that's bad?" I go, "No, I said, I was just making an analogy here. Like, longshoremen, they're strong, and then you were hitting it too far. Well, I don't understand that." And I go,
what happens if you say nothing?
No, you have to say, "Oh, wow, almost." And she'd miss it like by 15 feet. I go, "Wow, okay. Man, it was on a good line." So I just was picking my spots, and she's picked up the golf bug here. She's fun to have. She's a great conversationalist, but I felt like I had to keep acknowledging how she was playing. And at one point I joked and I said, "Hey, it'd be nice if you complimented me." And she goes, "Aren't you supposed to be good?" And I said, "Yeah." I was like, she was in this serious competitive mode. And I was like, "Okay, never mind. Oh, you look great tonight, honey." Yes.
Is your wife very competitive?
No. Not at all in any sport other than like running a marathon or things, a triathlon, things that I would never compete in. And then that's why it kind of surprised me that she got real competitive.
You're talking in my backswing.
Yeah. I know.
Oh, sorry, honey.
Yeah, Paul.
I don't play a lot of tennis. I played a little when I was a kid. I never really got into it. My sister is really good now. Like, she didn't play it when she was a kid. About a year ago, I played just, tennis with my sister. She's drastically better than I am, and she let me know. She enjoyed torturing me. I don't know if I think that's okay with brother and sister.
Yeah, husband and wife. No, it's not.
No.
Good. Like even I had the yellow Callaway ball, and she wanted to know why I had yellow, and she had an orange one, and she said, "Does that mean that I'm not as?" I said, "No, it's just I'll take the orange one. You have the yellow one. Like you got to pick and choose, pick your spots there." I was just trying to make sure I was saying all the right things. Father's Day coming up, though. Let me see. A couple of phone calls. Zach in Florida. Hi, Zach. What do you have for me today?
Hey, Dan, how we doing?
Good.
Yeah, so I just really am disappointed with this whole Kobe Bryant not being in the top 10. A couple months ago, you guys had a poll with the top 75, and he wasn't in the top 10. I'm speaking as a 23-year-old lifelong Laker fan, of course, so my view might be a little obscured. But
no, he's a top 10 player. No, he is. Absolutely. He's a top 10 player.
That's what I'm trying to say, Dan. I saw Kobe take the Lakers in 08, 9, and 10. Now, those are the ones I remember. I don't remember the earlier three-peat. But I saw Kobe, after he lost to the Celtics, go and whoop the Orlando Magic in 5 games. Kobe was not playing around.
No, I'm right there with you, Zach, and thanks for the phone call. Yeah, if not for Michael, we'd be looking at Kobe completely different than we do. It was just Mike came before him. And when we saw Kobe, it was always, yeah, but we've already seen this with Michael. Not fair to Kobe, but Kobe is a top 10 player of all time. Absolutely. Absolutely. Jeremy in Texas joins. Hey, Jeremy.
Morning, guys. How y'all doing?
Good.
First thing, with everybody coming back with COVID and all the fans coming back, it's going to be very important that they know their section of their own seat. So we need to make sure everybody knows that.
All right.
And two is, y'all were talking about labels. What about Kawhi Leonard and LeBron James? If either one of them win this year, they're going to be the first NBA player to win 3 championships on 3 different teams. And so that's a good label to put on one of them.
Yeah, but Kawhi's always going to get the label of, and thanks for calling, Jeremy, that, load management. And, he came through in the finals with Toronto, came up big there. San Antonio had some help there, but look, he still put up when you needed him to, and if he wins with the Clippers, yeah. But the load management is going to be Kawhi's label. It will. Well, when we look back, we'll go, he started load management. By then, we might go, man, load management's really smart. Yeah, McLovin.
Doesn't personality and visibility play into this? Like Kawhi never does interviews, so he's going to fall because of that. I'm surprised.
Tim Duncan didn't do an interview.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, I think he's going to fall out of the top 10 too. I don't think we're going to remember Tim Duncan as well.
We might not, but it feels like because he won 5 titles, nobody can tell you probably a signature play with Tim Duncan. When your nickname is the big fundamental, you're just not screaming out highlights there. Just saying. Dominique Wilkins was the human highlight. That's different than Tim Duncan. He was the antithesis of that. He's the big fundamental. The human lowlight. But he was a great player. Great. Yeah, McLovin.
Well, you're right. Because Shaq has the biggest personality, and he's only 10 on these lists. So it's not, you're right. Personality isn't everything.
Yeah, Paul.
Tim Duncan, everyone agrees his greatness. He always averaged 24 and 11.
Yeah.
In his entire career, this is so Tim Duncan, he never led the league in any statistical category.
Okay.
Not any. He was always good in all of them. Assists, even he was a good assist guy. He was a good block shots.
Yeah.
Not one category.
The big fundamental. When your nickname is Fundy, just, hey, come on out. Hey, kids, let's go out and see the big fundamental tonight. Let's check out his efficiency.
Come on, kids.
Yeah. Did you see that bank shot? Bob Costas will join us coming up. More phone calls as well. Dan and the Danettes and Todd here on the Dan Patrick Show. Do you have enough time, Cameron, that I can get my guys to have one question for you?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. Paulie, I'll start with you.
Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Was Jeff Spicoli, Sean Penn, was that automatic or were other people involved for that role?
Automatic. He came in and said, I can't even believe this happened. He came in. We said, okay, do the part. He said, I'm not going to do the part. We're like, well, you came in to audition. He said, I know how to do this part. I know this character. If you want to see it, hire me. And he'd done nothing that we'd seen. We heard he was in a movie called Bad Boys and was good. And I can't believe it. Like, he left the room and we just said, let's hire him, which is unbelievable. And I tried to get him to say, like, to me, I thought, like, if he doesn't say you right, we're dead. And so all the time we were filming and coming up to the scene, I would say, like, Sean. Well, actually, he wanted us to call him Jeff because he was in character. So I'd be like, Jeff, come on, it's late. You're feeling good. Just give me a you. Like, try that. No. Then the day came, and he did the scene, and he made such a meal out of saying you. We kind of looked at each other like, oh, my God, did we make the right move or what? This guy is like the maestro of saying you. So he literally bluffed his way into the part, and none of us were able to call him Sean until the day he finished the character.
Seton, your question for Cameron.
That's amazing. Yeah, our nickname for him was Sean De Niro because he was so much of a character with no portfolio.
I'm in character here, Mr. Hand.
We're like, who are you? We're eating out of your hand with crumbs, and it's like, who are you?
Where are we golfing today?
Today's Congressional.
Oh.
Tomorrow, RTJ.
All right. So do you call up or do you have an assistant calling up that says, hey, John Smoltz, Hall of Famer, would like to play golf today?
No, I call up. I got a lot of, you meet the right guy. He knows everybody who knows everybody. And next thing you know, you're hooked up.
But it felt like, this is the life of a pitcher. Starting pitcher is the best life you can possibly have in sports, right? 4 days of golf,
Absolutely.
Right?
Greatest job in America if you do it well. Not so much if you don't. Got to wait too long to. That's why when the life of 14 years as a starter, and they said, "Yeah, we want you to close now." I was like, "I wouldn't." It didn't. And man, not so sure about that. But it all worked out.
Did you ever golf on a day you pitched?
Yeah, but never as a starter. So as the closer goes, you don't know when you're going to pitch. So you basically get it done in the morning, and you pitch 10 o'clock at night. So if my theory was if I couldn't get 3 outs at 10 o'clock at night, something was wrong. Take a nap, get ready. It was great. It ended up being great. I played more golf as a closer than when I played as a starting pitcher, just because you don't know when you're going to pitch. So my manager was cool with it. 55 saves after the first year. They didn't really have an issue with it after that.
Do you think you would have come up as like Rivera and been a closer if you'd have known you could have played as much golf as you did as a closer?
Now that would have been a little different if I knew what those 3 years are going to be like. But there's still nothing like being a starter. I love the structure. I love knowing everything that I was going to do when I was going to do it. When you're a closer, you go by the seat of your pants. Nothing. It's just not my personality. But I adjusted for that short time frame.
Does Joe Buck go and play golf with you, or does he? What does Joe do?
He does. We've played a few times. Joe's a real good golfer, obviously the best in the business at what he does. So, I get Kevin Millar out here, Mark DeRosa. I've got my cronies out here that basically, Kevin's good for he's good for the Uber money.
I'm a great shower buddy, Dan. You know this.
Millard loves to talk about showering with guys, though, John, just so you know.
Yeah, I know he does.
He always tells me the worst body he ever showered with. You want to weigh in on that?
He would tell you?
Yes.
Oh, he's a better man than I am.
Yeah.
Better man.
He said shilling his first ballot. Bad money.
Well, I can't speak to that. I never played with Kurt. Yeah.
Welcome to the Dan Patrick Show.
Dan Patrick.
Baseball, tap me on the shoulder when you got some information here, because it feels like it's this verbal game of ping pong that's played between the players and the owners. We don't care about the money. We couldn't care less about the money. We just want to know. It's like, I don't care about the labor pains. Just show me the baby. All right? Show me the baby, and I'll get you a nice gift.
Excuse me.
I cared about my wife's labor pains.
You better be sure about that.
I really did. But I don't care about baseball's labor pains.
Dan is joined by Paulie, Seton, McLovin, and Fritz.
What do you got on? Your T-shirt
I've got
looks
a very
like
snug L when we all know I'm at least an XL.
If that T-shirt can make a noise, it'd probably be...
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine.
Broadcasting from the Mercedes Man Cave, this is Dan Patrick.
Welcome to the program. Final hour on this Wednesday. The great Bob Costas will join us coming up. How optimistic is he that we're going to have a baseball season? Our poll question, the first 2 hours, the over-under number of games for the regular season, 74.5, according to Paulie's bookie friend in Vegas. McLovin?
73% say under.
Okay. I'm going to go over. I'm going to be optimistic. We're going to play 75 games. 877-3DP Show. Email address dp@danpatrick.com. We also brought up this topic of either your favorite or your worst autograph story. And mine was probably back in 1971. And I think I was 15 at the time. Lakers came to town, and the Cincinnati Royals were going to move. And they were going to move to Kansas City. And I got to see the Atlanta Hawks with Maravich. You got to see the Knicks when they came in. And the Lakers came to town. And I realized that, and here I am 15, I don't even know if I'll get a job doing sports, but this is what I wanted to do for a living. But in my mind, I'll never see Wilt Chamberlain again. I had Jerry West's autograph and Happy Harrison. I had all Jim McMillan, Gail Goodrich, Bill Sharman, all these autographs from the Lakers. I didn't get Wilt Chamberlain. Outside Cincinnati Gardens, buses there, the Lakers. Wilt came by. They lost to the Royals, and he boarded the bus and sat in the first seat. And I thought, I'm going to walk on the bus. My friends encouraged me. I walked on the bus. Here I am, I think, 15 years of age, 14. And he stood up and told me to get the F off the bus. And then I walked down the steps, walked outside, and then my friends go, what did he say? And I told him, that's awesome. And that was one of my worst autograph stories, obviously. Had some good ones. There was the one when Maravich came out. And at the time, you have to understand how big Maravich was. Coming out of college, went to the Atlanta Hawks. He had a commercial. He had a couple of commercials. He did one for, I think it was hairspray, and then he did one for Pro Keds, and he where he's spinning the ball in his finger through his legs, and he was a sight to see. Maravich, he comes out of the side door of Cincinnati Gardens. We're all out there waiting for Maravich, and I remember Walt Bellamy was the center, and he had a Cadillac Eldorado, and I just remember a white one, and you had these guys that came out, and then Maravich came out, and it was pandemonium. It's like boy band pandemonium. And my friend grabbed Pete Maravich's hair. For some reason, to this day, I don't know why Zeke Campbell grabbed Pete Maravich's hair. I got Maravich to just sign Pistol on my program. And so Maravich gets in the car, and then he leaves, and then we kind of take inventory. And I was like, hey, did you get his autograph? And I go, I got it. And then my friend goes, I got some of his hair in my hand. So he showed us, he had locks of Pete Maravich, game-used hair by Pete Maravich. I told that story to Maravich when he went into the Basketball Hall of Fame when I went up to interview him. He didn't remember it, but he did remember Walt Bellamy picking him up in a car. But my friend grabbed his hair, didn't get his autograph. I did, but I had a lot of great memories. But if you got a bad one, let me know here. 877-3DP Show. And as I mentioned, Bob Costas will join us coming up. Yeah, Paul.
This one ended up being a pretty good one, but you remember I'm a crazy Bears fan. I think it was 1986. I'm a teenager, and I was in a restaurant in the south side of Chicago, and as we were walking out, a person walking in, a group, was Kevin Butler, the Bears kicker. Now, most people don't get too jacked up about a kicker, but he was a pretty well-known player on the Chicago Bears, Butler. You remember him.
Butthead.
Yeah, very popular. And seeing any Chicago Bear in public, I was going berserk. And I go, oh, and I grabbed a menu from the restaurant, like a to-go menu. And I ran, he was just standing there. He's about to go in. I go, excuse me, Mr. Butler, can I get your autograph real quick? But I was so, flustered that I forgot to grab a pen. And he goes, oh, yeah, sure, great. And he goes, hold on. And he goes, and he walks in the restaurant, and he walks in the restaurant, not like in the area, the vestibule where you're going in. I was like, I'm getting blown off. I was like, darn it. And and I didn't see him there. I looked for a second. I was like, all right. With my family, I walked to the car. I walk about 20 steps to the car. All of a sudden, you hear, he ran outside of the parking lot with a pen and tapped me on the shoulder. He goes, here you go. And he signed an autograph. I can't tell you how far that went, though, when you're 15 years old.
Oh, yeah. But if you're a kicker and somebody wants your autograph.
He was pretty fired up, I bet.
Yeah. Yes, Todd.
But then he ordered a turkey club from Paul, which was kind of strange. That 15-year-old kid is not working there. It's because he signed the to-go menus. They try to bring it,
all right,
tie it into the fact that he signed the to-go menu.
Tucker in Idaho joins us. Hi, Tucker.
Hey, Dan, 5'8", 180. And today also happens to be my 25th birthday.
Well, happy birthday, Tucker.
Thanks, Dan. So I'm a diehard Cubs fan, and I happen to be at spring training. So this was probably right around 2004. And we're outside of the facility there, and Dusty Baker's the manager. And so I have a jersey, and I have his signature, Derek Lee's, and I also had Corey Patterson's. And we're standing out there, and I can see this car pull in, and I can tell it's Sammy Sosa, who was my favorite player, of course, at that time being a Cubs fan. And so I run down his car and go to his door, and he gets out, and I say, Sammy, can you please sign my jersey? And he looks at me and just walks off.
Yep. Well, you're probably not alone in stories like that. Thank you, Tucker. And happy birthday, Tucker. David in Indiana. Thought we were getting a little bit more dramatic story there out of Tuck, but, hey, David.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. 5'9", 185. And so my dad takes us out to Bosse Field, in Evansville, where they film the League of Your Own later. But so we're out there, and at about the same time probably as your story with Wilt. But we're watching Pedro Borbon throw a little bullpen before the game, and you had to kind of lean over this brick wall to watch. And my sister and I were like 9 or 10 years old, and she yells down at Pedro. She said, "Would you give us a ball?" And Pedro looks up, and he says, "If you come out tomorrow night and watch me pitch, I'll give you a ball." So the next night, of course, my dad brings us out there again, and Pedro and another player come up the steps. We've been waiting for 15, 20 minutes, watching, waiting for him. He comes out, starts running. He gets about 15 or 20 steps and sees my sister, runs back in the dugout, gets a ball, autographs it, and comes out and gives it to her. Favorite player, her favorite player of all time, obviously. Another story, just real quickly.
No, that was too nice, David. You're telling nice autograph stories, and thank you though. I remember Pedro Borbon. He had a rubber arm. That guy could pitch every day. Wait, I tell you a negative one about Wilt Chamberlain. I got everybody telling me these Hallmark stories. Caleb, you got a crappy autograph story?
Sorry, Dan. Unfortunately, this is another good one.
Oh,
but
we're looking for content on this show.
Well, it's bad and good. Let me preface it with that.
Right.
So back in, I think it was 2012, RG3's rookie season, me and a friend went up to Richmond for training camp, snuck into the players' parking lot, got kicked out looking for RG3. So then we cut a little hole in the fence to try to see which bus he gets in. We see which bus he gets in, jump in our car. We hightail it after him all through downtown Richmond, run 4 red lights, then see him at the hotel, run into the hotel, security guards stop us. Then we're yelling at him. Then finally he comes over, gives us an autograph, says, "Damn, y'all are crazy." and then says bye to us.
All right. Well, once again, these are all nice autograph stories. We didn't get RG3 to sign our Robert Griffith Jr. III jersey, did we? But he did send, I have his shoes that I think he used at the Combine. I think I have the gold spikes up here that he provided. Yes. Come on.
As far as the autograph experience, does it really count if you go to a mall or some place where someone is already signing things, their card or their book or whatever, as opposed to trying to track someone down and go all the way down to the field or sneak into something?
Yeah, I think any place that you can get an autograph.
Is that like I got Ed Kranepool, former Mets third baseman's autograph on my little pink Spalding ball that you play stickball with, but that was a pre-planned signing that you just stand in line for. Or Randy Rasmussen, an old offensive lineman of the Jets, at some Sam Goody record store. Isn't that kind of weak though? If everyone's just online for, he's going to be there and he has to sign.
Nobody needs to know how you got the autograph, just that you have the autograph.
But there's no good story with that. You just showed up in some place in Jersey in a parking lot, and there he is signing everybody's thing.
Yes, McLovin.
I kind of agree with Todd. A prepaid mall event signature is not as cool as a random
It's not, but you don't have to say that you got it. That you prepaid for this.
But isn't part of the autograph the story?
It is for me. But if you just want to get an autograph, like my stories were just when I was really young and trying to get these autographs and how important they were. The fact that I saved these programs, or that my mom did, and I still have these programs of all these guys who signed it back in the early 70s. Let's see. Who has a bad autograph story? Luke in Alabama. Hey, Luke.
Hey, Dan, thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I'm 34 now, and I've never gotten over this. Matter of fact, I've never asked for another autograph since. But I was 15 at the time, 14, 15, at the state basketball tournament in Alabama in Birmingham at the Civic Center. I'm a junior high basketball player. I'm videoing the game for the varsity team, and in the upstairs press box walks Charles Barkley. It's just me and him. I grab my little booklet there, and I turn around, Mr. Barkley, will you sign this? Doesn't even acknowledge me, steps out of the press box onto the stands, starts yelling, and runs down the bleachers, waving his hands. Everybody's clapping. It's Barkley, it's Barkley. He sits down and starts signing autographs down at the court side, but he wouldn't. It was just me and him, and he didn't have time for me. I've never asked for another autograph. Scarred for life.
Well, thank you, Luke. That's not like Charles. Jeff in St. Louis. Hi, Jeff. What do you have for me today?
Good morning, Dan. Okay, mine is I was at Busch Stadium watching Big Man, Mark McGuire, doing batting practice, and he had a bad session. And I'm right at the dugout whenever he's going back in. And I said, hey, Big Matt, can I have your autograph? And he eagle-eyed me and spit on the ground and walked right in the dugout, right in front of me and my girlfriend. Thanks,
See,
buddy.
that's better than an autograph. Sometimes the story is better than the actual autograph. And I ran into Wilt Chamberlain years later at Madison Square Garden. And I told him the story about him telling me to get off the Lakers bus. And he thought it was so funny. And then he said, do you want my autograph now? And I said, no. It just was a better story that he told me to get off the bus. I saw this story here. There was a couple of football items. By the way, we'll talk to Bob Costas about baseball's new proposal. Now they're talking 89 games. It feels like they're going to settle maybe around 75. I love Fight Island in Abu Dhabi. I love it. UFC 251. Sure, why not? Live boxing last night on the mothership. Soccer's coming back. But we'll talk to Bob about Major League Baseball and its plans there. Dirk Cutter is the offensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons, and he was talking about Todd Gurley. And he said that, the main question that no one seems to know is what his health status is, what's his workload. But he does go on to say that when he's healthy, he's the best running back, arguably the best running back in football. Isn't that part of the problem with Todd Gurley, that he's not healthy, therefore he's not one of the best running backs in football? Yes, McLevin.
Wouldn't he be a Los Angeles Ram if he was healthy, and this would be a moot conversation?
Well, that was what my thought was of, hey, when he's healthy, he's arguably the Rams. If he was healthy for the Rams, they might have won the Super Bowl there. But I thought that was kind of Interesting. He can still do it. It's just a matter of how often he can do it. Man, he's great for 2 carries a game. You know, Gurley's he's only 25, right? And he had 2 seasons where he was pretty special. But, you know, you have that ACL tear, and I don't know. I always like to see how a running back does in the second half of the season. Like Dalvin Cook, to me, has no leverage, no bargaining power, and he's going to try to hold out, and it's not going to work. This is not going to work out well for Dalvin Cook in Minnesota. Not going to. But, you know, Todd Gurley, if you limit him, if you use him just enough, then maybe you can get some home runs out of him. And maybe that's what he's going to be, just going to be a home run hitter for the Atlanta Falcons there. So where Reggie Bush is welcome back, the NCAA barred him and USC from, I guess, getting together, associating, and now that 10-year ban is up. And what do you do to welcome back Reggie Bush? Considering everything that happened after that with Reggie Bush, and USC hasn't been the same. Do you have a welcome back Reggie Bush party? Yeah, Paulie.
It looks like they are. USC Trojans Athletics official Twitter put down, welcome back Reggie Bush. They also posted one just a few minutes ago from USC men's basketball. Welcome back O.J. Mayo, the highest drafted player in program history, has officially been reinstated. I didn't know he was.
What did he do?
I don't know. They're bringing back everybody.
All right, well, Reggie Bush is welcome back. Yes, Todd?
Maybe you have a Reggie Bush day and the opposite happens. He gives everyone in attendance all kinds of cash and prizes.
That's kind of funny.
I think it's a nice thing to do. Like Ellen's always giving out things on her show. This would be perfect. All these things that I took and it caused all this problem. Now you get a car, you get $10,000, whatever he gives out, he's got to give back to the community that day. Back to you, Mr.
Thank you, Todd. You got a laugh out of Paulie, and that's hard to do.
I did get a chuckle out of Paulie.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised.
I appreciate that.
Felt like a courtesy laugh. Does Reggie Bush get his Heisman back? You know, all he had to do is, if you had this disagreement, somebody loans you money and you buy your parents a house, you know, a marketing company, and then if you feel like, hey, I'm not going to pay you back, or I found somebody else, or whatever that stance was at the time, and then they go public, and then it's over. Ballgame. If he takes care of this privately, you know, he's probably like hundreds of athletes who have done this. Yeah, Paul.
The irony is almost the exact same thing is happening right now with Zion Williamson. He is going to be sued for agreeing to partner with a marketing company, an agency, and by going back on the deal and going with someone else, they're going to call him out on the things he did. That's exactly what happened to Reggie Bush.
Yep. More phone calls, but Reggie Bush, it's a 10-year, ban that was placed on him and USC, but now he gets to come back. And he's part of that Fox pregame show. I don't know if Reggie was even allowed to go to USC on the field when they did games. It feels like Leinart was there, but maybe that was a day when Leinart was being honored. But Reggie Bush is welcome back to the USC family there. 18 after the hour, we'll get to more phone calls. Bob Costas will join us coming up next year on the Dan Patrick Show. April 15, tax filing deadline was pushed back until July 15th. And you may be relieved by this, but the extension also gives additional time to fraudsters to look for data, your data, to sell on the dark web. The Government Accountability Office found that fraudsters use false identities to steal at least $1.68 billion in tax refunds back in 2016. That's why you need to have somebody who understands cybercrime and identity theft and how it affects your life. That's why you need LifeLock. You might miss these identity threats by just monitoring your credit. Good thing there's LifeLock, the leader in identity theft protection. If you become a victim of identity theft, LifeLock can help restore your identity easier than you can on your own. LifeLock detects a wide range of identity threats, like your social security number for sale on the dark web. No one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions at all businesses. LifeLock sees the threats you might miss on your own. Join now. Save up to 25% off your first year using the promo code Patrick, 1-800-LifeLock, or head to LifeLock.com. Promo code Patrick for up to 25% off.
Just tell me what you said about your grip. Nearly.
Oh,
that's close.
I manipulate my right hand.
I manipulate my right hand. What on earth does that mean?
I move it at impact.
Would you rotate or supinate?
I don't. Yes.
No idea. Yes.
But I move it a little bit so I close the face.
Oh, well, that's just called rotation. That's
hit the light.
The trouble.
Johnny Miller.
Yeah, good dude, Johnny Miller. You liked that last year?
No, these guys got on the range yesterday and they kept going.
Look, Ernie Els, that's a lovely one. Adam Scott, you think of your arms. We did this last year. Adam Scott's a good one. Adam Scott, think of your arms.
Don't you miss this?
Yeah. Yeah, and then you can do, who else I like? Jason Day's good with your belly. Jason Day. Oh, that's even better.
Nick, the problem is I do this. Brant Snedeker.
We can do Colin Montgomery.
30 yards too far, too short.
Did you
remember last year I did
you whiffed on one, didn't you?
No, I did my Rory McIlroy.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, no, here we go.
You remember Rory McIlroy into the lake and then you go and then you go like that. And I got a new one for this year.
Oh, okay. Oh, great.
Yeah, I've got Sergio Garcia.
Have you ever had one of those moments?
We've killed an old snake in a bunker. He looked more like one of those turtles, laying eggs on the beach in Madagascar, in Galapagos Islands, didn't they? Giving the sand going everywhere.
That's great.
That was funny. I did a good job.
All right, scoreboard time. The winner is James in South Carolina. James in South Carolina, congratulations. The first clue for number 14, airing out the game plan. Airing out the game plan. Number 14. Oh, I just gave you a number. Airing out the game plan. So it's not a year with 14, it's a jersey number 14.
It feels like that's football, but...
Could be football. Airing out the game plan.
Like Air Jordan.
Or air...
McNair.
Air McNair.
Or air coach's
Coryell.
name.
Air Coryell.
So who would that
Dan
be?
Fouts.
Dan Fouts, jersey number 14. He was born on this date in 1951.
Okay.
84. On this date in 84. The clue is, are you disappointed for him? Are you disappointed for him? On this date in 1984.
So the LA Forum.
LA Great Western Forum. Are you disappointed for him? Which means...
Who lost?
On this date in 1984, the Celtics beat the Lakers 4-3 to win the NBA championship. Fouts and the Celtics beating the Lakers.
And somebody got that.
James in South Carolina got it. How about that?
Air
Coryell.
Forum.
Air Coryell. Dan Fouts.
We'll talk to Bob Costas here in a moment. Now, see, here's an autograph story from Cody Brooks. When I was 12 years old, I saw Kobe Bryant at the Nike employee store here in Portland, Oregon. When I went up to him to ask him for an autograph, he said no because I was wearing all Air Jordan stuff. I like that. I like the autograph stories that don't have a happy ending, just like my Wilt Chamberlain story. Paulie just sent me this stat. He's all giddy about this. When Pete Carroll coached USC, they won 11 or more games 7 times. In the 10 years since Pete Carroll left USC, USC has won 11 or more games just once. And since Pete Carroll left, USC has had 4 head coaches. Bob, is Bob Costas set to join us there? Well, Fritzy's trying to get him on the phone here. In 2 seasons, 2 great seasons, I was talking about Todd Gurley being the best running back in football. In those 2 seasons, he scored a total of 40 touchdowns. No other player in the NFL scored more than 32 touchdowns over that same time period. He's only 25. I just don't know, can he have a Frank Gore-like career? Because Frank Gore blew out both of his knees in college, I believe. And here he is with, 15,000 career yards. I don't know if Todd Gurley can be that kind of running back. And the Falcons taking a chance and seeing if they can get some home runs out of him, because that's really what I'm going to have to use Todd Gurley for. Do I give him 15 touches a game? But Matt Ryan was gushing about Todd Gurley. Dirk Cutter, the offensive coordinator, gushing about him. Yeah, Paulie.
Frank Gore is the perfect running back. He's never been paid. He always makes about $2 or $3 million a year. Last year made $1.2 million. He's never gotten the big money, Frank Gore. He's never gotten a big contract. So he's been the perfect running back.
Bob Costas, Hall of Fame broadcaster, and MLB Network has launched a new series. It's called Sounds of Baseball, co-hosted by Bob and Tom Verducci. And you look back on some of the greatest calls, moments from great broadcasters. Vin Scully was featured first, Jack Buck, Bob Hueker, and others will follow. Bob joining us on the program. Good morning, Bob. How's your morale?
Not too bad. Not too bad. All things considered, we're kind of getting used to it, just waiting it out and seeing what's going to happen.
But you're waiting for baseball to come back. What do you do all day?
Well, I've been able to read more outside sports and outside preparation than I used to, because there isn't that much to prepare for. We spend so much time, I'm sure we're very much alike in this respect, reading newspapers, reading magazines, not enough time to delve into books. And over the last many weeks, I've been able to do that. I'm doing what a lot of people are doing, catching up on stuff that's on Netflix or old movies or whatever it may be. And, that's pretty much it. Watching some of the archival games that show up on the all sports networks. And what you just mentioned is one of the great labors of love ever. I don't know if you were able to catch it. I'm sure they'll repeat it. The 2 hours with Vin Scully drew such a response. During the Last Dance or whatever, I'd hear from a lot of people because that was being watched by millions of people. But the response to this, among whatever size audience happened to catch it on a Monday night on MLB Network, really shows that Vin is in a category all his own. And the way people respond to this kind of programming, it's nostalgic, but it's also new. It's just a different way in. It's not just a series of clips and highlights. We try to get to kind of the mosaic of what made him different and what made him tremendous. And there's so much baseball history going back to 1950 and so much broadcasting history, really. And I hope we provided some insight into that beyond just here's a great play or here's a great game and here's a great call of it.
We talked about this, I think, the last time we talked, that social media would probably be very critical of Vin Scully. I mean, they're critical of everybody here, but to have that kind of voice, and would we allow a voice like that now in baseball or in sports?
I don't know that he could flourish on network TV if that's where he landed first. In fact, one of the points we made, and maybe I told you this story on one of our other visits at some point along the way, Dan, one of the points we made was that Dodger telecasts in the last 20 years or so, when he was just doing games, mostly home games because he wasn't traveling that much anymore, those telecasts were directed and produced from the inside out. He didn't have to follow graphics and production elements. They followed him with rare exceptions. And I mentioned on this special one occasion where he was telling a story about Don Zimmer, who had only passed away a few days before. And in the middle of it, Scott Van Slyke of the Dodgers gets hit by a pitch. Big deal. The benches didn't empty. He wasn't beamed. He didn't charge the mound. He goes down to first base. No matter how good the producer or director, if that happens today in any baseball game, they show it from 3 or 4 different angles. But that would have truncated Vin's story. He just noted that Van Slyke had been hit. He goes down to first base. He continues with this 4 or 5 minute remembrance of Don Zimmer. And even the network games, and there are plenty of them on this special that Tom and I did about Vin, even the network games are less cluttered than they are now. Some of the games the archival games that I did in the 1990s that have been played on the Major League Baseball Network you can't help but notice, if you have any interest in broadcasting, how relatively uncluttered they are. Are there replays when necessary? Yeah. Are there graphics? Yeah. But you don't need a pitch box and a strike zone box on every single play. You don't need to perform an autopsy on every ground ball to shortstop. And that allows a broadcast to breathe and allows a broadcaster to do whatever he is most able to do.
You look at Bob Uecker's career, and he was a novelty when he was on with Carson, and he was so self-deprecating, light beer commercials, like what, it's one of those where you go, how did this happen? But it happened. Like Dick Vitale happened. If you said, hey, this guy's going to be a star, like, why did Bob Uecker resonate with people, not only locally, but nationally?
Well, first of all, he's just so damn funny. When you think of the Major League movies, Major League 3, even Uecker says you should forget about, but Major League 1 was fantastic. Major League 2 was good. And Uecker is a huge reason why. He's the guy who stitches the whole thing together, and he ad-libbed at least half of it. They'd give him just a general script, and he'd think of funny things to say. Carson was only a so-so baseball fan, but he loved Uecker. Many people who played with him on the Braves or the Cardinals or the Phillies say to this day that he's the funniest person they've ever been around, and he's just that funny in person, even funnier in some respects than he is on the air. But here's what a lot of people miss. If they only know him from Johnny Carson or the Major League movies or the commercials, he's just straight up a really good baseball announcer. You listen to his calls of big plays for the Brewers, he's on top of the game. It's different than Scully. Vin and others, I tried to prepare as hard as I could. Al Michaels, you prepares by going to the clubhouse, hanging around the batting cage, goes upstairs, takes a look at the game notes that they hand out in the press box, fills out a lineup card, and just wings it. But his broadcast, even if he wasn't as funny as he is, his broadcasts are first rate, and he's 86 years old.
Talking to Bob Costas, I know we keep talking about baseball. I said it's kind of a verbal game of ping pong. Back and forth we go, and I don't know where we end up, but it feels like 75, something in that area feels like common ground here. But the back and forth being made public, it feels like baseball everything's leaked out. Like where the NBA kept everything quiet for about 3 weeks, and now they're on the verge of coming back. I don't know what the strategy is of Major League Baseball or the Players Association, but if you were going to be an arbitrator here, mediator, how would you bring both sides together?
Well, one of the things you'd have to point out is they're moving toward, if it makes that much difference to the players, to be able to say that they won some sort of nominal victory by saying we're getting prorated, 100% prorated, or some portion close to 100% of what would have been prorated. If it's that important to them, figure out what the actual pool of money would be under any of these other proposals. And if you needed to save face to say that you got the prorated portion, we're just going to keep calibrating it until we get to the number where you can claim that victory and walk away. These two sides seem determined to drive off a cliff. And they seem yet again determined, and I thought it might have been better because they hadn't had a work stoppage in a long time. I thought there was a better relationship. But there's so much lasting mistrust between the sides. It's been passed down through the generations. And I think it's particularly true of the players at this point, more so than the owners and the commissioner. Historically, the players were right. I don't think either side can claim any moral high ground in this situation. The players talking about we were promised prorated. But it specifically says in the agreement that they struck in spring training when COVID-19 first hit that if they had to play without fans, they would revisit it. Then they claim, this will establish some sort of revenue sharing or backdoor salary cap for the future. What kind of claim is that? Do the owners intend to play without fans in the future? Do they intend to play with teams competing only in their own time zones? These are all one-offs. These are all just for now. And what you're pointing out is correct. Not only is the bickering making them look bad, but if, in fact, that bickering keeps them from playing at all, or if it reduces them to a number of games that would be a mockery, because we know that baseball is different from basketball or hockey or even football in that respect. You need some representative number of games to say that, okay, we've determined, even in this one-off season, we've determined that that's enough to launch a postseason from there. The Nats were 19-31 after 50 games last year, and they wound up winning the World Series. You got to play a representative number of games before there's any authenticity at all, even in a unique season like this. And the big picture, a year from now, they're going to have to sit down and hammer out another CBA. And no matter who walks away from the table now and says, well, I guess we got the better of this negotiation, if the business itself is damaged, then everybody is damaged. And if the business thrives, then everybody does better. The owners won some concessions in the last couple of negotiations, not major ones, but some. Can we say that the players didn't thrive? Of course they continued to thrive. And what they've got to see now in a forest for the trees situation is this. No matter what, even if they've done everything perfectly, if they were able to play 82 games and everyone was on the same page and they're all making the best of it, they're still going to take an economic hit next season and maybe beyond because people are going to have less discretionary income. Some will be less willing to come to games, just as they'll be less willing to go to concerts and other gatherings. There's going to be an economic hit. And instead, here they are squabbling over small things and not seeing the importance of the big things.
Our poll question is over-under 75 games for baseball this season. Where do you stand?
That seems about right. That seems, if you're talking about an over-under. Could it land under that? Yeah. I take the under.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying it won't be 75, but it'd be very optimistic to land higher than 75, I think.
Percentage that we don't have a season this year would be what, in your opinion?
Small, but not impossible. 10%, 20%.
Yeah. It's just, the clock is ticking, and it feels like we set these arbitrary dates and go, okay, if you don't start by now, and then you don't start by now. I don't know if you don't start by now that it truly means if you don't start by now that you won't get a season in, because you're going to get dwarfed by, hockey coming back, golf is coming back, soccer's back. You're going to have the NBA coming back in the postseason. Then you got college and the NFL. And baseball gets lost usually in those months anyways. They have their sweet spot usually in, July or June and July or July and August here. And that's dangerous too if you come back and you're not relevant after everything that you've gone through.
Yeah, they could have had it if they did it in a way that seemed as if they were on the same page, as we said. They could have had the stage to themselves among team sports for a while, and that would have been a boost. And the owners are very keen on finishing before going deep into November. They proposed a regular season that ends toward the end of September, expanded playoffs, maybe with as many as 16 teams. So it'll take a little while to get through that. But they really don't want to be playing, into Thanksgiving or, heaven forbid, into December, not just because they'd be up against other sports, but because they fear, no one knows for sure, but they fear a surge in the coronavirus and perhaps being derailed, which could happen to any sport at any time. So, they're looking at a window of getting in enough games for it to be credible, then finish with an expanded postseason and get out of the way, hopefully, before something else knocks them off course.
You ever called a game in the snow?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. A baseball game, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, during the 1997 World Series, there were snow flurries and temperatures in the 30s in Cleveland. It was the Marlins against the Indians, and every game in Cleveland, our teeth were chattering up in the booth. And every game in Florida, it's like 85 degrees, complete contrast. I remember at one point, and this is the rare situation where I may have said something funnier than what Euchre was thinking of at that exact moment. He was commenting on how cold it was, and I said, I glanced down in the stands, and a half dozen of the concession people are St. Bernards. and Euchre said, this is a really nice night for a game if you're a Penguin. And then the next night, Hannah Storm and Keith Olbermann were hosting the pregame, and they came on the air with an actual Penguin on the set with them. And it wasn't Burgess Meredith or Danny DeVito.
Okay.
It was a Penguin. Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Hey, thanks for joining us, Bob. Hopefully we got some movement here sometime soon with baseball.
I sure hope so.
But great to talk to you. Thank you, bud.
You too, Dan. Be well.
That's
Bye.
Bob Costas, Hall of Famer. And, of course, he spent 40 years at NBC. MLB Network has the series, The Sounds of Baseball. Take a break. Last call for phone calls and what's in store for tomorrow, what we learned. We'll figure all that out coming up. And this day in sports history after this. You remember your first show with Barkley? Anything stand out?
Yeah, I can remember he and Kenny coming out for halftime, again, as they always do, about 30 seconds before we go on the air. And Charles asking Kenny, he said, what are you going to say when we talk about this? I don't remember the topic. Kenny says, you'll find out. And that basically set the tone for the rest of for the next 20 years, is that we were not going to sit down and say, second segment, we're talking about the Clippers, and then, so you be ready with something, you be ready with something. It's like, whatever you got in the saddlebag,
Save
let's
it
hear
for the show.
Oh, you won't believe how many times I say that, because these guys will start getting into something, on the set, in a commercial break, and Shaq, how can you say, just don't go there.
Yeah.
This sounds like it will really be good, so let's wait. And that's the way it's been for years.
I remember doing that with Rob Dibble when I was doing my radio show with the former Nasty Boy. And he would always have these moments during commercial break. He'd go, yeah, I remember when we stole this beer truck, we were in minor. And he'd go, no, hold on. No, stop.
Yeah.
Right there.
I don't want to hear any more.
And then he goes, I dated this girl at Applebee's, and she had black teeth. Hold on, stop right there. And then I would say, Dibs, did you date when you were in the minors? And he goes, and then he looks at me like, you already know what the story is. And then I had to teach him, tell the story as if I didn't know it. Yeah. And then he gave the great story. He goes, I dated this girl who was so pretty, had horrible teeth, so I made sure that I didn't tell her any funny jokes because I didn't want to see her teeth. So he said, I really liked her, but I just didn't want her to smile because she had bad teeth.
That's tremendous.
Yeah.
But aren't there are certainly stories that you will not get into on the air, right?
Yeah.
And there, because we all know that stuff. So, there are things that I will not go into with Shaq and Kenny and Chuck, even though I know the story.
Yes.
Because you know what line you can cross and what would not be
and
a
you've
good
crossed
idea.
some lines there.
Yeah, there have been a few times.
There have been.
Lines have been crossed.
You caught me. It's one of my favorite moments of the week when the Flannery beef shipment comes in. Ooh, boy, that looks good. This will be a nice little challenge for Chef Allen.
Hey guys, our friends at Flannery Beef sent us over 2 blends of ground beef. A traditional blend and a more adventurous blend. The more adventurous blend has some dry-aged steak ends in it. It's gonna give it a whole different complexity. So these blends are steakhouse quality blends, steakhouse quality flavors. This is not the kind of stuff that you're gonna get at your grocery store. And better yet, you don't even have to leave your house. It's delivered right to your doorstep. So the Sicilian in me, I couldn't think of anything but meatballs when I saw this ground beef. I thought maybe we'd throw together some meatball sliders. Let's get to work. We're making these meatballs about the size of golf balls because they're going on slider buns. You don't want to handle it too much, right? You're going to make the meatballs tough. You kind of want to get them shaped and get them in the pan. So we're going to cook these in oil over a medium-high heat. You're really just kind of browning all sides of it. All these flavors together. This place smells so good right now. A meatball this size, once it's brown on all sides, you can be pretty sure that it's done. And there you have it. Meatball sliders made with ground beef from Flannery Beef. Bon appetit.
No, you guys were supposed to wait until we came back on camera.
No.
Well, I didn't. Chef Allen did, but I got dry-aged hamburger. But I didn't know that they could dry. This is Flannery beef here, and it's like a taste test. It's pretty good.
So good. Sliders. It's funny, you can eat like 6 sliders and you feel like you're eating less because they're small.
Yeah,
I like
so
that.
This is dry aged, right?
Oh, fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Doc, can I have your shirt? I can wipe my hand on it.
That's amazing.
By the way, go to FlanneryBeef.com. The promo code is Dan, just in time for Father's Day. When we had those ribeyes, like we're used to going to the store to have a ribeye, and it's about like this. That ribeye was like this.
Yeah.
And that might be the best steak I ever had.
Really?
It might be. And we didn't do anything special to it. It was just great.
Did I mention how soft your buns are?
Thank you.
That's a nice compliment.
Take great pride in my buns. Yep, that's it.
I think we are.
I'm gonna get one.
We back.
No eating on the air.
Wait.
Last call for phone calls. What we learned, what's in store tomorrow. Have that for you coming up. Swan in Arkansas joins us. Hey, Swan, what do you have for me today?
Hey, 5'10", 230 pounds. Wanted to share with you about the experience I had with the immortal Cliff Branch. Was in the Raiders team store buying a jersey. He was in the back signing autographs. I went and bought a couple. And to my surprise, he takes off his Super Bowl 18 ring and puts it on. And I learned real quick how strong his hands were. The grip that he put on my neck was intense. But got pictures with him. And, he passed away last year. So it just makes that experience all the more great for me.
Well, thank you, Swan. And Cliff got into the Hall of Fame, didn't he? Or I've been arguing that Cliff Branch should be in the Hall of Fame. Now, they're going to have the Hall of Fame game in the ceremony coming up this summer in August. At least it's still on schedule. Yeah, McLovin.
I think he missed it again.
No. It maybe he did. I was trying to remember if I...
He was very close this year.
Yeah, Paul.
Dan, the past couple of days on social media, I forgot to ask you this the other day. There's been a little bit of a push for Dave Parker, the 70s, 80s slugger for Cincinnati and Pittsburgh and Oakland, to be in the Hall of Fame. Top of your head, what do you think?
The Cobra, and he was when he got to the plate, I don't know how intimidating that must have looked and felt like. A former running back in high school at Quarter Tech was the name of the high school, and everybody knew about Dave Parker, the athlete. But Cobra going to Pittsburgh, eventually played for the Reds. He has health concerns now, and people have sent me some stuff with Dave Parker and hoping that there's a push for Dave Parker to go into the Hall of Fame. I don't know if he has any magical numbers, and baseball's all about magical numbers. I just know that when he got to the plate, that was an intimidating guy. And he was a great outfielder, one of the great arms. Usually you would put your best arm in right field, and Cobra had a great arm. Yeah, Paul.
He was an MVP once, top 5 MVP 5 times. Didn't he feel like a big-time baseball star? When I was a kid, he felt like a baseball star.
Well, he was a big, literally big baseball star.
And in those Pittsburgh uniforms, he filled them out. He just looked like the most intimidating guy in the sport.
I just don't know if he has the numbers there in what baseball looks for. And that's one of those, you always go, if I say his name, is he a Hall of Famer? And with Dave Parker, I sort of viewed him the way I did Jim Rice. They were just intimidating when they got to the plate. But the one thing that Parker had, he was a really good fielder as well. Yeah, Fritzy.
George Foster was always another name where I just thought growing up that this guy, when I heard the name George Foster, this was a big deal. This guy, because that was back in the day where hitting 30 home runs was considered huge.
Well, he wasn't consistent enough, but I remember Foster hit 50 home runs one year. John in Missouri. Hey, John, what do you have for me?
Yeah, I got a story for you. Bad autograph.
Okay.
I was up in Minneapolis before I went to the game. I had bought a new jersey from a sporting goods store. It cost me about $120. It was an Emmitt Smith jersey for when he played for Arizona. And we were like the only ones in the Metrodome Walked down. He's on the field stretching out. Shook his head, waved his hand, no. So I took the jersey back and got my money back.
Emmett wouldn't sign it.
No.
Okay. He wasn't proud of that. And thanks for the phone call there. Yeah, he had one of those. We talk about these quarterbacks who end up with a team in the last year of their career. There's some running backs. Tony Dorsett certainly was there with Emmett. OJ with the San Francisco 49ers.
Franco, Seahawk.
Yeah. LaDainian Tomlinson.
Jet.
Yeah. Well,
he was okay with them, actually.
Yeah, he was going to Minneapolis. He was going to Minnesota, wasn't he?
I think, did he promise us a jersey?
They made him a jersey. They thought he was going there. Paulie, what's this day in sports history?
Shockingly, they're almost all Babe Ruth related. 1921, Babe Ruth became baseball's all-time home run leader with 120. 1944, youngest baseball player in history, Joe Nuxhall, 15 years and 10 months old when he made a pitching debut with the Reds. 1975, big one. Pele signed a 3-year deal with the U.S.-based New York Cosmos. Yeah.
Is it Pelé or Pele?
I think it's Pele.
I always thought it was Pele, but I've been around soccer snobs where they go, it's Pele.
Pele signed a 3-year contract with the Cosmos.
Yeah.
And another Babe Ruth, 2005. Babe Ruth's 1919 contract that moved him from Boston to the Yankees. Sold at auction for, closest to the hole, how much did Babe Ruth's contract sell for? Who wants a piece of it?
$63,000.
Absolutely not.
$1 million.
You're off by $4,000, $996,000, and we're going to give that to you.
Okay. I went over, though. But
it's okay. Closest to the hole.
All right. Fair enough. Thank you. Final results of the poll question, McLevin.
Are we going over or under 74.5 games? Almost 80% say under.
All right. I remain optimistic. Jacob in Virginia joins us. Hey, Jake, what do you have?
Hey, what's going on, DP? So got a few quick stories for you. Jim Tome was on the on-deck circle during spring training. I tossed him a ball, Sharpie. He threw it back to me. Went to go catch it. That Sharpie smudged. Asked him to sign again. He was like, nope, you only got one chance. So that kind of sucked. And then my uncle wanted a picture of Roberto Alomar and Sandy Alomar together signed. Sandy Alomar did it. Got to Roberto Alomar, and he goes, nope, I don't do pictures. I don't care if my brother signed it or not. If you got a ball, I'll do it. So it kind of broke his heart. And then another quick one. I was bat boying for the Cincinnati Reds in Sarasota. Went to the locker room. Me and my buddy wanted to take a ball from the bucket. Grabbed one and ended up being signed by Ken Griffey Jr. So that was pretty cool.
All right. Well, thank you, Jacob. You don't get somebody to sign your ball with a Sharpie. What are you thinking there? Seton O'Connor, what did you learn on today's program?
I learned toddlers struggling.
You just learned that Todd's struggling?
He's right now in the midst of one of the great slumps in Dan Patrick Show history.
I had one more joke off that Roberto Sandy Alomar story. Not only did Roberto Alomar not sign it, he spit on it.
I know. Here we go.
That's not bad. That's not horrible.
It's okay.
It's a bit obvious because of Alomar, but that's a nice callback.
But it's like hitting a jumper down 25.
He once spit on an umpire, remember?
No, I remember that.
It's one of the great slumps in the 12 years that we've been doing this that I can't remember a time.
I don't know if
he'll
get out of this. I don't know if he'll get out of this slump.
Just whiff after whiff.
I don't know. I don't know. It feels like you're trying to hit a 9-run home run.
I'm way under the Mendoza
Yeah,
line.
you are. It's the Fritzy. It's not the Mendoza line. It's the Fritzy line.
Nice.
It's even lower than the Mendoza line.
Okay, you made your point.
Todd, what'd you learn today?
You think there'll be a 74.5 baseball over. You're taking the over on the 74.5 baseball games. Bob Costas taking the under.
You're rattled, man.
You're
You are
rattled.
rattled. McLevin?
Howard Beck talked about effective field goal percentage with James Harden. Love it.
Paulie?
We all learned this.
Celebrity
About Fritzy.
journalist Flo Anthony, who claims to have spoken to a source with knowledge
What we
from
learned
some
brought to you
close
by
says
Raycon wireless earbuds. They're the way to go. 15% off your Raycon order at buyraycon.com/Patrick. That's buyraycon.com/Patrick. Thanks for joining us. Talk to you tomorrow here on The Dan Patrick Show.